Hey everyone, welcome. Let's see who's here. Kai says you thought it was an off week. Yeah, it is an off week. No, this is a just a bonus live stream. Just wanted to hang out anyway. Got some stuff we can go over for Korean, but it's not one of the classes. There was no vote. So that's how you can know if there's like a stream suddenly just appears and you're like, hey Billy, I thought it was an off week. Well, yeah, if we didn't have a vote or I didn't make a post about it, then there is none. So it's just a regular live stream. It's not a lesson live stream. Although we are doing a lesson, it's not one of those lesson live streams. So like there's not, like I have an outline of like a bunch of sentences I prepared and stuff that I can talk about, but this isn't going up on Patreon. There's no worksheet for this. It's just, yeah. So it is a lesson, but it's not a lesson. But yeah, everyone, welcome. I don't know how many people will get today because again, it's an off day, but see who's here. Aerospot London, VV. Since there are only a few people so far, I'm going to read everyone's name off. We've only got about like 35 people in here right now. Person in Chinese, Ta Dong Il. I have no idea what that is supposed to mean. I don't know that actually. The second one, I don't know. I'm guessing how to read it, but I'm not sure. One love. T something one love. I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Arya as well. You wrote Lanyang. It should be Anyang. Flo Purdy, Keith, Emma, Maddie, Cosma, Michael. Welcome. Yeah, there's no announcements today. No prerequisites. It's a shame. I always have announcements to make and everything. There's going to be a regular live with the class next Sunday. So if you're waiting for, I'm not sure what the topic's going to be. We'll have to do a vote. If you're waiting for that, check out my community tab. You'll see something posted about that tomorrow, so you can vote for what you want the next topic to be. Today we're gonna be doing some practicing with casual speech and polite speech. So I'm gonna have some sentences, and we're gonna try to change them from casual speech into polite speech, and then a few sentences that we'll try the other way from polite speech to see how casual we can make it. If we can make it even more casual than it is. So yeah, I have a bunch of sentences for that we can do for today. We'll start that right at the top of the hour, just as usual. For right now, we're just kind of hanging out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Flo says, I asked my daughter about ATs in Korea. That's right. She said it's absolutely true. They're not that popular in Korea. Okay. Yeah. I also, after that, I wasn't sure. So I asked a couple other people and they confirmed as well that they're not, I'm not dissing them. Okay. I'm not dissing them. All right. But that they're not that popular in Korea, that most people wouldn't know who they are or have heard of them. Now that they obviously are very popular though. So yeah, it's like, and that's not a rare thing I've seen from some K-pop groups that start out in Korea, but they don't pick up enough steam in their home country. But then when they do performing in other countries, something about them just like really, really connects with whatever other country that they're in. And then they start getting a lot of fans in a different country, sometimes way more than in Korea. That's happened a lot. And I mean, I can't think of too many cases, but if I can think of a few off the top of my head, I'm assuming it's happened a lot. But yeah, that's what I've heard, is that they're one of those cases where they got popular overseas and that overshadowed their popularity in Korea. Welcome, welcome. I see lots of people writing Anyang and 안녕하세요. Obviously, Anyang would be the very casual one. You wouldn't want to ever use that to a teacher, though I don't care because, you know, I'm a Korean learner. I learned Korean myself as well. But if it was a Korean person, you wouldn't ever want to say 안녕 to your teacher because it would be like, it's not like saying yo teach in English. It's actually putting the person down. So you want to make sure to a teacher, you would always say 안녕하세요, at least to a Korean teacher. Like I said, I don't mind. They followed kind of their own path and their looks don't necessarily fit typical Korean beauty standards. Ah, okay. Yeah, there is a thing in Korea. We won't talk about this today, but that would be a huge topic. Korean beauty standards. Oh my God. That would be I try to keep this channel focused on the Korean language. So we're not going to talk about that, but yeah, there is a whole thing in Korea about that where you got to look a certain way. Even when they like you, you have to continually make yourself look a certain way to be accepted with, you know, in that sort of thing, like for K-pop performers and, you know, music performers, actors as well, everything. Anyone that appears in the spotlight, is subject to that sort of scrutiny by other Korean people. So it could be that they just don't look the right way, the way that they want. So yeah, it could be that. I don't know. Let's see. 한국 수업을 들어 존댓말만 배웠어요. 존댓말만 배웠다고요. Okay, okay. Yeah, that's good. So Maddie's just basically saying that they only learned polite speech. So 존댓말 is 존댓말 is literally respectful speech. So it encompasses everything that's respectful, and 반말 encompasses everything that's not 존댓말. So Korean doesn't really use the terminology we use in English to learn Korean. Like we would say, honorific speech is a specific type of polite speech. Humble speech is also a specific type. There's polite speech, there's formal speech, there's informal speech. There are all these little terms we use to help with learning the language, but Koreans themselves don't use these terms. Korean teachers will be aware of those terms, but regular Koreans only know 반말, 존댓말. That's it. Like there aren't any, like they wouldn't be familiar with the word 높임말 per se. They would assume it to be the same thing as 존댓말, which is 높임말 is what we typically would use as the word for specifically honorifics, which are also polite speech, but they're a subset, they're a part of polite speech. 낮춤말 is what you would refer to as humble speech, but it doesn't necessarily sound like you're humbling. It sounds like you could be humbling someone else. It could be a bit vague if the person's not familiar with Korean language education. So be careful when you're using these terms to actual Korean people, because they will know 반말 and 존댓말, but they might not be familiar with the other ones like we would use for like formal, informal, all that stuff. World domination, I can't pronounce the first part. Will this briefly cover past, present, future tense? No, like I said, this isn't a regular live stream lesson that I do. This is just a off-the-cuff bonus live stream. We're going to be taking some sentences and converting them from casual speech into polite speech. We'll do a few back and forth. And I'll go over some tips for that, but we're not going to be covering conjugation because that would be a whole separate lesson. I do have live streams about those though. But yeah, just covering the conjugation of stuff and like exceptions and everything and all the tenses itself would be like a 6-hour lesson. So that's why you can find them separately on my channel or other places on the internet as well. Hello, is there a specific phrase you've always wanted to use but never have? I'm not sure how to answer that question. If there is a phrase I wanted to use, I would use it. So no, I can't think of a phrase that I don't know. I guess so, yeah. Korean netizens, tough crowd. Yeah, I mean, is the Korean netizen culture worse than other countries' netizen culture? I don't really know. I would lean to say yes, it is, but I don't have enough evidence to say that, so. I'm not, because I kind of avoid that part of the internet anyway. Stray Kids, yes. Oh, I see. Okay. I'm not familiar with all of their albums. Like I said, I researched their Speaking Korean. Any random fan off the street who would know more about Stray Kids music than me, even though I researched them nonstop. Like that's all I did was eat and breathe Stray Kids for weeks to make those videos. But I only focused on the way that they're speaking. So I had no clue. They'd be like, oh, Billy, did you listen to this song when they do this and this? I'm like, I honestly couldn't tell you anything about their music, except the few songs I would research as part of it. But I spent all my time just listening to them speaking to each other like, okay, oh, this person used this instead of this. Oh, that's interesting. They use this. Oh, they have dialect. Like all of these things I was paying attention to. I wasn't even looking at, the part that everyone else does, which is their actual performance. So same with BTS. When I did those videos, I've now forgotten the majority of what I did. But when I did the BTS videos, I knew way more about like BTS, like the way that they talk, their ages, their personalities, all of that stuff than most regular fans at the time when I was making those videos, just because I was so engrossed in the way that they were speaking. But if someone had been like, hey, Billy, can you name like one song from this album? I'd be like, Dynamite? I just hope I get lucky. So that's kind of what happens every time I do these videos. And it was the same with TXT. Like I would be correcting other people on a TXT Discord about like their personality or what they were saying, you know, how they're acting. I'd be like, oh, actually, they do this. But I would have no clue about most of their music or anything like that, because it's just not what I put my time into when I make those videos. Kai asks, have you met a lot of learners who use your resources to learn and thank you for it? Yeah, I do. Every once in a while, if I go out in public, anytime I attend any sort of event, at least one person will recognize me there. They'll be like, that you can tell they'll give you like a weird stare. They'll like raise one eye and they'll look at you and then they'll turn away and they'll look back, like, because, you know, I'm not wearing these clothes when I'm going to like the supermarket or something like that, or if I'm like going to some event or whatever. So like, do you? And I'm like, I know it's coming. Yeah, no, it's fun as long as they're like honest about it. As long as they're not creepy about it, like trying to like taking my picture from far away but not saying hi. Like, you can take my picture but like say hi. Like, it feels like weird if I see someone like staring at me in the distance but then they kind of run away. I'm like, did they want to talk to me, or are they just a creepy person? So I've had that happen before a couple times where someone would like take my picture and then like send it to someone else, be like, oh, I saw Billy here or whatever in Korea at this place. I'd be like, just say hi. Like, I'll sign an autograph if you want. I'll take a picture with you. I'll take a selfie, you know, we'll give each other high fives. I'll ask you about your Korean. Just come up and say hi, like, you know. But that's not too common. Most people, I think, at least I think so, most people do come up and say hi. I saw the Felix Korean breakdown. Yeah, I've been meaning to go back and do a sequel to that video, but I have so many other groups I have to do. I just don't have copies of myself to make all the videos I want to make, because that video, I believe, was 2021 that I made the video. I can't remember exactly. It was like 20 or 2021 where I did the Stray Kids video. And the most recent video I had of him at the time when I was using was like a video from 2019 or something like that. It was like the year prior to when I made it. And I am positive he has improved Korean even further now. Like, there's no way he hasn't, because the trajectory he was going was like this. And I saw it happening, and it wouldn't just stop unless he left Korea and quit all activities, which he hasn't. So I'd want to go back and review him again and kind of see what happens to someone when they continue to learn Korean really hard for such and such, you know, this many years living in Korea. But yeah, I'm sure he's gotten better now. I'm sure everyone that I've reviewed has gotten better at this point. BTS Jungkook speaks so clearly and slow, I can understand him very well. Yeah, he doesn't use dialect, which helps. At least not in his regular speaking. And he has a low voice, as I remember, so it's like really clear and easy to understand. But really the big reason you're saying that is because comparatively, relative to the other members, he's easier to understand. If you say, oh, he's so easy to understand, I'm like, yeah, compare him to RM, you know, compare him to Shuka, like that, then yes, he's very easy to understand. But I didn't think he was especially easier than, you know, anyone else. It was just relative to the other members. He might as well do voiceover acting. So, all right, no, I'll get started with this lesson. It's like I said, it's kind of like an interactive lesson today. We'll do another one. Oh no, I would say hi, but I would want to try to talk in Korean to be terrified to mess up. And just speak in English. I don't mind. You can just tell me you're studying Korean and I'll, you know, say 안녕하세요, and I'm like, awesome, that's cool. You don't have to like try to impress me. I'm impressed if someone tells me just that they're studying Korean, which is, it's really cool anyway. I love Stray Kids and wasn't expecting to talk about that here. Yeah. Shuga mumbles. Yeah, I point that out in the video. Not only does he use a bit of dialect, more so than most of the other members, not all, but J-Hope, I believe, was the one that I found uses the most dialect, actually, which was pretty surprising to me. Yeah, which was really surprising because I was expecting it would be Suga, since he's from Daegu and actually does use a lot of dialect, but J-Hope uses even more. But yeah, Suga, though, the thing is, like, he'll start off, like, really clear, and then regardless if he's using dialect or not, and then as his sentences go long and longer, his volume gets quieter. And he starts to pronounce things less. Like, he has a thought in his head he's going to say, and as soon as he starts saying it, he's like, oh, I'm happy now. I've got it out. While he's still putting words in the air. And it's just like, I just got to get this out of the way so I can go to the next thought. So yeah, that's kind of what he does. Which is perfect that he has a talk show where he's drinking. Like, just make it worse, right? Oh, hey, 미국 오빠. 오랜만에 보는 것 같네요. Okay, 여러분 안녕하십니까? I feel like all the Stray Kids members, yeah, everyone in Korea, obviously not everyone, but the majority of Koreans can, especially these days, from the past 30 years or so ago, everyone knows English. Whether they speak it well depends entirely on how much they're actually using it, but everyone knows it. So yeah, don't be surprised if you hear your favorite celebrity start speaking English, that they've been learning it from a child. Now, the ones that do a lot of performing in foreign countries will have a lot more opportunities to hear that language and get better at it as well. Why are we talking about Yoongi? Oh, well, why not? Because he was fun. He's a fun Korean speaker. I like unique Korean speakers. Suchiwa, yeah, that's right. I don't know the name of it. I know what you're talking about, though. His talk show where he drinks with the guests. Because I watched it when I was doing the BTS analysis videos. I watched so much BTS. Like, it was like, as every single BTS video, I scanned through every single Run BTS episode. All of their like radio appearances. Not their live shows, because like I was actually trying to find how they speak Korean normally, not how they're speaking when they're performing or acting. And a ton of their lives from, I think at that time it was V Live, or if they'd already moved to Weaver. Anyway, yeah, their live streams as well. It was like a month or 2 months. I can't remember. It's all a blur now, where I was just every day just watching their videos and taking notes. Let's see. Okay, let's do, Jungi seems depressed to me. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know if I can... See, I don't want to speculate on someone's mental state based on how they speak, because I don't know him. So I won't make a comment on that. There are comments I could make on all the members, things I think, I have a strong opinion of this person. I'm not going to go into any of that. Oh, hey, Kai! Top of the hour donation. Thank you, Kai. Very much appreciated, Kai. As for markers, last week we did a donation pool to get new markers. So I found some beautiful markers. I'm not going to order them yet because I counted and I still have a handful of black markers, which is okay. I have one more blue marker. So as soon as I start using that other blue marker, I'm going to place an order for some other cool colors that I found. I found a really nice set of some interesting colors I've never touched before for live streams, like pink, green, orange. Like, I think the orange is gonna look really cool. So yeah, I'll get those. Don't worry. Let me give you 10 dabs for your donation first, and then we'll go on to some sentences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 dabs for Kai. Okay. So what I want to do today is different than normal. It's not a regular lesson today. I wanted to go over some sentences that are polite speech and casual speech. And we're going to get some sentences that are casual, and I want people here to change them. I want you to change them into their opposite as much as you can. So we can play with this because there is a lot of leeway there's a big difference between casual speech and polite speech. It's not one or the other. It's not like, oh, well, you do this and it's casual. You do this and it's polite. There are so many little facets there are so many little options you can do to change a sentence to be more polite or more casual and even more casual and more polite. So that's what we're going to be doing today, just kind of having a bit of fun. I think a good example of this is going to be our very first one. So I'm going to give you a sentence. This sentence is casual. In fact, it's as casual as I can think of, although we technically could make this more casual if we make it into a dialect when it's unnecessary. Like if you want to ask someone, did you eat? 밥 먹었어? You could technically make it in Busan dialect to be funny. 밥 묻나. 밥 묻나 is what they would say in dialect. There are actually a few other ways. 밥 묻나, 밥 무반나, which I've heard as well. But 밥 묻나 would be like a joking way to say it, which I guess would sound more casual. But standard Korean, 밥 먹었어 is the most casual way that you can ask someone, 밥, rice, or a meal. 먹었어, did you eat? Interesting thing about pop. So obviously pop means cooked rice. So they use cooked rice to refer to a meal. Like asking someone, did you eat rice, is a way to ask someone if they had a meal, if they've eaten something. It's the same over in Japan as well as I think China. And the reason for that is because traditionally, when you ask someone if they ate rice, you're actually not asking them traditionally. You're not asking them just if they had a meal. It's actually a literal sentence. When you say 밥 먹었어, you're literally asking them, did you eat rice? Because traditionally, the meal you would eat is rice with side dishes. That was your meal. It wasn't like you'd order a pizza in like feudal Japan or in like ancient like Joseon dynasty. You wouldn't like, go down to Five Guys and get a hamburger or something like, or In-N-Out, I guess is probably a better option because they're more affordable. You wouldn't just get In-N-Out. It wasn't used to refer to a meal. It was used to literally refer to rice because you would eat a bowl of rice with a bunch of sides. So if someone said, did you eat a meal? What they really mean is, did you eat your rice today? Like your meal, you have rice with stuff. So yeah, it is a literal translation. It's not just that it means a meal. It actually does mean rice. So I want you to make this sentence and write it down. You probably already doing that. Not answering this. I want you to translate this casual sentence into polite speech. It doesn't have to be as polite as you can make it. I just want you to make it any other level of politeness. So I'm going to give you a minute to do that. There are a lot of ways we can make this more polite, more than you maybe think. Let me think. How many did I write down? I have 5 ways we can make this more polite. 5 unique ways that we can make this more polite. But I want to see what you have. Stray Kids asks, how do you do he, she, her, them? They don't have those in Korean. Those only exist for literal translations of stuff from English or other languages into Korean, or if they want the sentence to seem like it's translated from another language. It's not used in actual Korean speech, though. Let's see. Oh, Keith has a good one. 식사 드셨나요? Okay. Yes, we'll have a not quite, but close. We'll talk about that. The reason 식사 would be used with the verb 하다. Flo has the most basic answer, which is also correct. 밥 먹었어요? Well, I'll talk about a few of these after we get some answers. Emily says, people ask 밥은. Yeah, that's one of the 3 things that a Busan dialect speaker, specifically Gyeongsang area, that whole area of Korea, that would the man comes home and stereotypically will ask 3 things to his wife, and the first one is 밥은. Like, what about basically what's the meal today? Like, what's for dinner? And then 아는, like, how about the kid? And then 자자, let's go to bed. Like, it's, or 불고, depends what you want to say that they would say right away. But yeah, 밥은 is just a really short way of saying, how about the meal? Like, what's for dinner? But it's not necessarily, did you eat? It could be, did you eat? But it could just be anything. Like, hey, let's talk about a meal. Implying, did you eat? Or let's talk about a meal. What are we going to eat? Okay, let's see. 실례지만 혹시 식사를 하셨습니까? Very polite. Yes. Yeah, and 식사 is used with 하다, just so you know. So you want to do 하셨어요, not 드셨어요. 드셨어요 would be used with 밥. Whereas 식사 is not 밥 specifically. 밥 먹었어요? 밥 먹었습니까? Yes. Yeah, not 밥 먹었습니다, but 먹었습니까? 밥 먹었습니다 would be I ate or you ate. It's not a question, but it would just be someone did. You'd have to change it to 가 to make it into a question. Did you? Okay, so let's do a few. Obviously, this is the first one. We could just do this. 밥 먹었어요? 밥 먹었어요? Did you eat? Now, this is mostly polite. You wouldn't say this to someone you want to be respectful toward. Like, you wouldn't say this toward, like, an older coworker, unless you're kind of already, like, on a good, close relationship. You wouldn't say this to your teacher. You wouldn't say this to a stranger that you're meeting. But it's more polite than 밥 먹었어. Also, of course, you can do, if you want to be more polite, but you don't know much Korean yet, but you want to be as polite as you can, then 밥 먹었습니까 is not enough. It's not formal enough. So with another verb, this would be perfect, because 습니까 is a polite way. It's a formal way of asking someone a question. The problem, though, is that 먹다 itself is not formal. It's not polite. It's not impolite, but it itself is not a polite word. If you want to sound extra respectful to someone, you don't use the verb 먹다, to eat. You use a different verb, 드시다. 드시다 also means the same thing as 먹다, although it also takes the place of 마시다, to drink. If you wanted to use 마시다 specifically, like not say eat it, but say drink it, 드시다 takes the place of both. And this is it's technically a honorific verb, but you can also just learn it's a more respectful version. So if you're asking someone else if they ate, not yourself, but someone else, you would use 드시다. So we could do this. 밥을 드셨어요? Now, this is still not the best. This is still not the best way to do it, though, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I'm just gonna write this up on the board for now. But it's still not the best we can do. Okay. Let me just check the chat for a second. Raymond, 밥 먹었어요? Yeah. 식사하셨습니까? Yeah, we're gonna talk about 식사하다 next. So we changed 먹다 to 드시다. If you want to be more polite, like if you were asking someone something like water, 물을 드셨어요? Did you drink water? 물 is a totally neutral word. It doesn't sound like formal or informal or polite or rude or anything like that. It just means water. There's nothing else you can do with it. But 밥 is a little bit different. So if you had 물 드셨어요, you're totally fine. But if you have 밥 here, 밥 is not a formal word. It's not an especially polite word. It's a very colloquial, common word you use in conversation, which means a meal. So not only would you need to replace 먹다 with 드시다, but you also can't use 밥 here, or else it's kind of like lopsided. Like 밥 is, like I said, it's not formal, it's not very polite, but you're using 드셨어요, which is very polite. And although the sentence sounds overall like you're trying to be extra polite, it fails because, like I said, one side is still hanging down and not polite enough. So 밥 itself is not really an extra polite word. It's a very normal word. So instead, if you're using 밥 and you want to make it more polite, instead of 밥을 먹다, you would actually switch to a different word completely. Now this is an action verb. This is something you're doing. 식사하다. 식사하다 itself means to eat a meal. This is 밥을 먹다 as a formal word. So it itself is not necessarily a very formal word, but it can be used in formal speech. It's more polite than saying 밥을 먹다. So 식사하다 is a more polite version of 밥을 먹다. You can kind of remember it like that. So you can use this. So instead of saying 밥을 먹었어요, you can say 식사했어요 if you want. 식사했어요 is, like I said, it's not especially polite, but it sounds like you're being more respectful, at least to the person that you're asking. Because like I said, pop would be like for people your own age or people a little bit older than you, but you're close with. But if you're like going up to your teacher, going up to a boss, going up to someone who you're just meeting for the first time and you ask them, 밥 먹었어요? It's kind of like we're acting like we're friends already, but we're not. Like, I don't know you yet. So you wouldn't ask 밥을 먹었어요. You would say, 식사했어요? But more than that, this isn't even complete yet. So hopefully I'm not losing anyone, but this is not complete enough because 식사하다 is polite. We're now in the polite territory, but we're not with this. 했어요 is a regular ending. So this is still something that you would say to someone who you're at least kind of close with, you already are acquainted with. To a stranger, it's not that polite. You need to now use, instead of 하다, you need to use 하시다. So we're actually using the honorific ending, 으시다. And you can do this on any verb if it doesn't have a separate form. Like 먹다 became 드시다, so you can't use it here. But any other verb you can attach that doesn't have its own version, you can attach 으시다 after a consonant or 시다 after a vowel to the verb stem. And then you get its honorific version, which is for talking about other people. So instead of 식사했어요, we can do 식사하셨어요. So 식사하셨어요 is now a very nice, polite way that you can ask someone if they've eaten if you're not already their friend. If you're talking to your best friend, you're like, hey, 밥 먹었어, you're fine. But if you're calling someone who you don't really know that well, they could be your same age. It doesn't really matter. You're not friends with them yet. 식사하셨어요? 혹시 식사하셨어요? Have you eaten? It's polite. Now you're good. This is polite. This is polite and respectful. You are done. You now have a perfect sentence. So the level goes 밥 먹었어? 밥 먹었어요? Then to 식사하셨어요? So it's like the middle ground can be a bit awkward. So I would avoid that. Okay. But we're not done. We can actually make this more polite. Does anyone know how we can make this even more polite? Because we can go a couple steps further. One of the steps we can do is obvious and the other one's not so obvious. Emily VBR says, can you use 음식 instead of pop? No. So you're asking, can you use 음식? 음식 means food. If you ask someone, 음식을 먹었어요, 음식 드셨어요, they will understand you 100%. But what does it mean? Pop, first of all, pop does not mean food. Pop means rice, cooked rice, and it's used to imply a meal. But literally it means, did you have uncooked rice? Sorry, not uncooked. Did you have cooked rice? Because that's a meal to Korean people traditionally. They would eat rice with sides. 음식 means food. So if you say 음식 먹었어요, it's like, did you eat food? It's kind of like you are a pod person. You've landed on Earth and you're like first you're trying to move your body around, but then you're like, have you consumed food today? It's kind of like that. They'll understand you, but it sounds awkward. So you would not ever use 음식 with like saying you ate food, unless you were saying something like 한국 음식, because 한국 음식, now you have a natural expression, Korean food, in which case you can say 한국 음식을 먹었어요. I ate Korean food. But without that thing to describe what kind of food you're talking about, 매운 음식, spicy food, you need some sort of descriptive word before to talk about what kind of food you're eating. You can't just say, I ate food. I like food. Food is delicious. So you need to make sure you're describing what kind of food. Otherwise, it just sounds a bit awkward. But I have heard a lot of beginners say that before, like 음식을 먹었어요, like I ate food. I'm like, I understand why they're saying that, but you would, in that case, you'd want to use 밥. As in, I ate something, I had a meal. Or just say directly what it is that you ate. Like, 피자를 먹었어요, I ate pizza, like that. Okay, Let me see if we have any other. George already has both of the answers correct, so I'm going to ignore those so that I don't give them away too soon. But I'm going to go over those one at a time. Yes, correct, George. Let's see here. 식사를 하셔 is actually not a wrong sentence, but it would be not polite to the person you're talking to. So this isn't a lesson about honorifics, but a really quick reminder. So this form that I told you, the ushida thing, you take a verb stem. So like hada, the verb stem is ha, and then you attach shida if it ends in a vowel. Or if the verb stem ends with a consonant, like anta for to sit down, it becomes ushida, like that. So now you have an honorific verb. This is only used when talking about someone else, never yourself. So you wouldn't say 제가 하셨어요. That's extremely awkward. It's always someone else you want to show respect toward. You can conjugate this like the regular 요 form, 하셔, right? Or 하셔요. But if you say 하셔, actually, let me tell you this first. If you say 하셔요 or 하세요, same thing. If you say 하셔요 about someone else, good. You're being polite to that person that you're talking about by using 하셔, and you're being polite to the person you're speaking to right now, whether it's that person you're talking about or someone else. You're being polite to the person you're speaking to by adding the 요. That's what the 요 does. It's specifically for the politeness that you're showing to the person that you're currently engaged with, you're currently talking with. If you say 식사하셨어, it's awkward because now you're saying 하셨어, like you're being polite to the person you're talking about, but you're not ending it with 요. So it's like you're not polite. It doesn't match. So you can say 하셨어, like to your friend, you can say my grandmother something 하셨어. So you're being polite to the grandmother who you're talking about, but you're not being extra polite to your friend who you normally would just speak casually with. So you have to match the politeness levels with that. Okay, so we can go a little bit further than what we had just now. We had 식사하셨어요. We can also do, just like we had before, 식사하셨습니까? Now this is a little bit humorous because the 씁니다 and 씁니까 forms are most often just used in formal situations or like the first time you're introducing yourself to someone or in the Korean military or to service workers. Like there's many situations where it is used, but it wouldn't be used in common everyday speech. They would just use the 요 form. So 하셨어요 is probably the best way, but 하셨습니까 also works. 식사하셨습니까? Like have you eaten? If you want to be extra respectful, 식사하셨습니까? Have you eaten? But we can do better. For most purposes, for 100% of the situations you're going to be in, 밥 먹었어, 밥 먹었어요, or 식사하셨어요 are going to be all that you need. Those, and even if we want to reduce it to less, 밥 먹었어 to your friends, 식사하셨어요 to people who are not your friends. That'll be like 100% of the situations. But you want to get a little more polite. So remember I said that 밥 is not a formal or polite word. It's just a regular everyday word. There is a more polite version of 밥. There are actually two. There's another one that you can use for the king, but we're not going to go into that. You don't need to know it. But 밥, the more polite version of 밥, the honorific term for 밥, is 진지. 진지 means your meal. And this one could be used with 드시다 because it's like, did you eat your meal? But if you're going to be this polite anyway, 진지 is considered to be like extra polite. It's more than just using honorific, which is why you'll rarely, if ever, see it. In fact, the only place you're going to see 진지 used is in a Korean lesson like this one, explaining that there's a more polite way to use it. I'm not a Korean, so I am sure actual Koreans have heard this used before, possibly in like a TV drama or something like that. But in real life, I've never once heard someone say 진지 outside of a Korean lesson. But it is there, and every Korean knows it. But it's used with a different verb. Oops. I was trying to write 다 already. 접수시다. 접수시다 is a super polite version of 먹다. It's more than 드시다. So there's like 먹다 and then more polite is tishida, and then more polite is chopsushida. Now there is something about chopsushida that I could go over. I'm not sure if I really want to. Let me see. Hold on. Sorry. Yeah. Typo. Sorry. I was like, after I wrote it, I kind of felt weird about it, so I had to double check. This one is almost never used, but there are some situations where you do use chopsushida. I'll tell you that in a second. I was right here for a reminder. Chopsushida. Let me double check this as well. Yes. Okay. Now we're good. Chopsushida. It felt weird coming out of my mouth, but I had a typo on here, and I'm like, anyway. Okay. Chopsushida is an even more polite version of bokda and tushida. So this is like the ultimate way of saying, did you eat? So you would say, 진지를 잡수셨어요. 진지를 잡수셨습니까? It sounds goofy because of how polite it is. And I've never actually heard someone ask this outside of like a Korean lesson, which will explain that this is a verb that you can use. Okay, I'm gonna leave this up for a second, then I'll cover this because there is actually a case when you might see it. But 식사하셨어. Yeah, you can use that. 점심을 드셨어요. Yes, you can. Yeah, Raymond, that's what we're gonna talk about. Someone I keep forgetting it's Stray Kids. Who would I use 진지 with? No one. No, you wouldn't use it with the president because it sounds awkward. It sounds like you're being overly formal. So the answer is, who would I use 진지 to? The answer is, you would write it on your Korean test that the Korean teacher made you memorize to pass. You will not use this, but you should know it because people will tell you, hey, do you know this special polite way of saying, did you eat? Like, you'll see people talk about it like that. So you should know it. Just so you can say, yeah, I know it, and never use it ever. 진지 잡수시다. Is this a word you'd use with the king? No. 잡수시다, yes. Not 진지. Kings use a different word. Do you want to know? Do you want to know like this kind of like useless garbage about Korean? Like, I mean, I research this stuff, but I don't want to assume that you want to know the same type of language garbage that I like to dig through. I like to go through the trash can and find everything that's useless and then find, you know, little polished stuff like, oh, I found like a shiny thing. And then sometimes I'll present that to you. But like, there's so much you could go. We can go even further into this. I'm just trying to I'm trying to protect you. Okay. You want to learn this? Okay. Okay, first let's do this, and then I'll put a note here for myself that we're gonna go over that in a second. Okay, so 진지 잡수시다. So you can ask it 진지 잡수셨어요. Never once heard anyone say this, but it is a thing. Now that does not mean you will never see 잡수시다. I'm talking about 진지. 진지 itself is. Someone might jokingly use 진지 잡수시다 as like a pretend way of like asking if they're like super politely asking if someone ate or said someone ate, but you're not going to use it in real life. So 잡수다, however, is the regular verb. 잡수시다 actually comes from 잡수다. So it's the honorific version of 잡수다, which means to eat. And it itself is a very polite word. So this is not formal. This is just polite. It's not honorific. It's just normal. But it's an old word. It's not used anymore for the most part. 잡수시다 is the honorific. You see, you get the verb stem and you add shida. So then you get 잡수시다. 잡수다 is still used both as 잡수다 and 잡수시다 by the. What's a nice way to say super old? No one here is like over 80, right? I mean, maybe there is someone watching later on. Okay. The older generation, let's just say that I can just say that, right? The more experienced generation, they have more wisdom. People with the most wisdom on this earth right now. You may hear some of them still using this term, both for asking questions or as tapsushida. There's a song that I used to know. There's an I don't remember actually I don't really want to share the song because it's so stupid. But there's a song I know, in the song one of the lyrics is tapsuol, like eat the egg or something like that. And you'll still see it, but it has a very older feel to it, like a very, it's not used commonly. You do not want to use it. It sounds awkward, but you'll still hear some people who are older using this word, but it's not common. Be careful with the age thing. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm 97. Yes, I'm sorry. My grandma's 90. Or she's 91. Yeah, she must be 90. No, she's like 92. I have no idea actually how old my grandma is right now. I just know she already hit 91, but that might have been a couple years ago. Anyway, I'm using your beginner Korean course. I hope I have a good carrier. Maybe someday work with you. Nice, good job. Hey, Flo. Thank you, Flo. I was just about to start going into the garbage pit. I'll check your donation first. To follow Kai's format, this is the half-hour donation. Thank you, Flo. I didn't know there was a required donation after half-hour format. Every half hour. Thank you, Flo. Let me do some dabs here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I gotta make some new images. I have like stars. I have the kimchi. I have the Korean flag. And I have Kiket doing a dab party. I need to make some new ones. I haven't made a new one in like a couple years now. I gotta make some new ones. If you have any suggestions, I'm open to that. Okay, so now let's get on to the stuff that everyone wants to know. Is there a word more polite than jinji? The answer is yes. So let me just triple check this garbage before because this is a word like I never use this word, so I want to triple check it. Yes. Okay. This is correct. This word is more polite than shinji. You will never, ever see this word. Like, maybe it'll be, if you watch historical dramas, maybe they'll use this word and like, but if someone uses this word, there's going to be a little description in the bottom on Korean that specifies. This is not just food. This is the king's meal. The king's meal. The king's meal is called sura. No one else's meal is called sura. This is the king's meal. Naver lists it as in the king's palaces. This would be the meal that would be served to the king, and it's a honorific word. So you would never say you ate your sura. You would never ask your friend if they had their sura. 혹시 sura 먹었어? I mean, if your friend's name is Sura, you could be like, Sura 먹었어? I don't know. Maybe they'll actually don't do that because Koreans really don't like when you play with their name. Like they can get offended at that really easily. Whereas we do it all the time in America, but it's not a Korean humor type of thing to make fun of someone's name. So don't do that. But I was trying to think of an example and then I'm like, nah, you probably don't want to do that. They might get mad. Yeah, don't use this word at all. I dug it out of the trash and I'm sharing it with you, but yeah, it is a thing. I'm trying to think if the average Korean would know this word. I think no. I don't think most Koreans are aware of this word. But if you explain it, if they saw it in context, they probably would understand it. But I don't think if you said sura, they would know what you're talking about. But it would be used like sura 잡수셨습니까? 전하, 수라를 잡수셨습니까? Like that. My king, hast thou eaten thine meal? Like, it sounds like that, really. So, yeah. Sura is name of a restaurant. I'm sure there is a restaurant. MJ's hit in Korea, 그냥 잡소. Yeah. But it wouldn't be 잡수다. Michael Jackson wouldn't use 잡수다. It is a 그냥 먹어. But it's not eat it, either. And that's weird. That's Weird Al. Why do you say Michael Jackson? That's Weird Al. Just eat it. Michael Jackson is just beat it, which I won't say in Korean because it's kind of a swear word. Yeah, just eat it was the Weird Al version. You got me confused. I'm like, wait, Michael Jackson didn't make Just Eat It. Hanja is sura, for those that are interested. Yes, there is a, let me check if that's the right one. Yes, that's the right one. I'm not sure what the hanja for the second part means. I know the first one is water, but I'm not sure where that, let me check. Let me check where that second hanja is from to see where we can get that from. Sura, is that the one? I guess it's this one. Something's like really vivacious. That's the best word. Lively, like active and lively, but that doesn't seem to make any sense with this, like water, because su is water, and that would be like lively water, or water of life. I have no idea where that term comes from. My guess is that it's straight translated from Chinese, but I could be wrong. The parody is more in my head. Yeah, I heard that that happens. The guy who wrote American Pie also said he sometimes sings the Weird Al version during his concerts and just kind of forgets. Okay, let's do another one. Let's go to another one. I have a lot of these sentences. I have more sentences than we can get through today, so I'm just going to do a few. 잘 잤어? 잘 잤어? Did you sleep well? Let's make this one polite. Go ahead and make it as polite as you want, or just make it a little bit more polite. It's up to you. Oh, I see. Can it be used to like, oof, it felt like a king's meal? No, they would use 진수성찬? 진수찬? Hold on. 진수찬. Oh, now I gotta search this. There's a hanja idiom that I've never once used, but I learned it from my book 2 years ago, and I'm trying to figure out what it was. 진성탄. Okay, I was close. Yes. Okay. Never used it, but I've heard it. Again, I heard this one from a Korean teacher. 진수성탄 is like a feast. It was like a glorious feast, a banquet. This is what you would use if you want to like exaggeratedly joke about something being amazing. Like you wouldn't say it was like a king's meal. You would just say it was 진수성탄. And then you can use this with ida, like it was. I'll leave this up here in case you want to learn it. But like I said, I never got a chance to use it. So, which is probably why I forgot the last two ones. I was close, but no kimchi, as they say. 잘 잤어요? 안녕히 주무셨어요? Nice, Nina. Yes. 잘 주무셨어요? 잘 잤어요? 푹 주무셨어요? 잘 주무셨어요? Okay. I think people already have the right idea of how it's used. Okay, yeah, we can go up. The really easy way, you can, of course, add yo here. This is fine to your friends, acquaintances. I'm saying friends, even if it has yo, keep in mind that you still use yo to your friends if they're older than you. And you still use yo to your friends if you're not very close with them. If you get really close with your friend and you're Korean, if you get really close with your friend and they're the same age as you, then yeah, you could not use it. But it's a little bit different when I talk about rules, because as a non-Korean, you have different set of rules than an actual Korean would have. So as a non-Korean person that looks non-Korean, you can get away with using casual speech to your older friends because they're trying to adapt to your foreign culture, your Western culture. So they might expect you to speak to them casually as well, even though they would not do that with a native Korean. So just keep that in mind, that it's not a rule that Koreans follow. Normally, you would still use the polite speech, even if you're friends, if the person's older than you, for your whole life. That's just how it works. And then there are exceptions, for other people, but that's the general rule. So even if you're friends with someone, if you're not like really close with them, even as a non-Korean, if you're not close with them, you would still use yo. If you're just acquaintances, but you're not friends. So don't ask like a Korean teacher you know, even if you've seen them like every day for 10 years, they've been your Korean teacher forever. And they're your teacher though. You still would not use 잤어 to them. It would be awkward. 잘 잤어요? So did you sleep well? But we can go farther than this because there is a more polite version of 자다. There's an honorific version, 주무시다. This one is used quite a lot for older people. So 주무시다 is just to sleep, but it's a more polite version for someone else. You would never say you 주무셨어요. It's always someone else. So you can ask someone 잘 주무셨어요. The really quick way to make this more polite, but we're going to go up a little further because we can make it better. Because there is a I don't want to say it's not a more polite version of 잘, but it's a more appropriate version of 잘 for here. 안녕히 does not mean 잘. Does not mean 잘. It doesn't mean well like 잘 does. 안녕히 means peacefully. Comfortably. In peace. So when you say 안녕히 가세요, you're saying go in peace, go peacefully. But it's used like as if it's a more polite version of 잘 because it's used in those expressions where you would normally say 잘. 안녕히 가세요, 잘 가. It's a equivalent even though it doesn't mean the same thing at all. Like I said, 안녕히 does not mean 잘. 잘 means well, like doing something well. It can also mean doing something often. This does not mean either any of those. Zero relation with 잘. But the usage when you're replacing 잘 to make it and you're not, it doesn't mean well, but if you mean like 잘 있어, like take care, 잘 가, goodbye, like that, 잘 자다. For these sorts of cases, it's okay to switch it, but just don't go like crazy and switch 잘 with 안녕히. It's gonna sound awkward if you do it with like, how do you speak Korean? Oh, 안녕히 하고 있어요. I speak it well. Like it sounds, that doesn't make any sense. That's like, I do it peacefully. So only with the situations where it normally is used. Just only use it with with certain expressions like sleep or to go, like that. Okay, so 안녕히 주무셨어요. You could also make this even more polite. 안녕히 주무셨습니까? Did you sleep well? And it doesn't sound too polite. I'll say that. This is very respectful, but it doesn't sound too polite. Like I would use this expression if I was talking to someone like my mother-in-law. 안녕히 주무셨어요? Or I could just say, 잘 주무셨어요? Like that. Depends how respectful I want to be. But yeah, if you're not close with someone, they're much older than you. 안녕히 주무셨어요. Sounds very polite and nice. Did you sleep well? Did you have a nice sleep? Kind of like that. Let's see. Natalie, yeah, welcome. Sometimes I do. I don't always. It's just kind of a thing. Can we make this any more polite? Can anyone think of any way? I actually can't. I'm just wondering if anyone out there knows more Korean than me and can make this more polite. I don't think there is. That's pretty much that's as polite as you can make it. I'm trying to think if there's another way you could even make this more polite. 주무시었나이까. Like you can go into old language and then it can sound more formal, but then it just sounds awkward. So this is as good as you can get. This is as polite as you can get. Okay. The next one. Okay, let's do one more casual to polite, and then I want to do some polite to casual. 지금 해줘. Please do it now. Please do it for me right now. Do it for me now, please. 지금 해줘. The 주어 literally is to give. So this is the auxiliary verb, the helping verb that adds on to this verb to do, to mean to give, 주다, to give me the action of you doing something. So it's like the way to say, please do something for me. So do something for me now. 지금 해줘. How would we make this more polite? There are a lot of options for this as well. As well as I have one special option that's you won't be able to get. You won't be able to guess maybe, but what can we do? Okay, for what? Yep, we got a couple already. 지금 해주세요 is a really quick way. Is there any others? Any other ways we can make this polite? Doesn't have to be the most polite, but just a little more polite than this. Also, what does everyone think of this background? This is not green screen for my first time like ever. I'm not using a green screen background. I'm just using a color on my lights that I normally never touch. Is this acceptable? Because I didn't feel like setting up a green screen because I have to find like an image for it. I have to set it up in my program. It takes a little bit of extra time, and today was kind of spontaneous. So I just switched it to a color. Is this okay? Can I do this sometimes? Or do you prefer the green screen backgrounds? I can do that again next time. 지금 해주세요. 지금 해드리세요. Nope. So Ninha, I'm going to pause for just to answer Ninha's example. I know exactly why you put that. So 드리다 is a more polite version of 주다, and they both mean to give. So you might assume, well, if I change 주다 to 드리다, it's going to be more polite. But actually, 드리다 is what's known as a humble verb. It is only used by yourself or a subject who's lowering themselves to do something for someone else. So like, for example, a mother might use this to talk about her child lowering themselves to do something for someone else who's more respectful for them. That situation can happen. But 9 times out of 10, 드리다 is what you use when you yourself, the speaker, is being polite to someone else. It's like you're actually physically lowering yourself down and offering something up to something to the other person. So if you say, hey, 드려요, like I'm doing it for you. It could not mean do it for me, because if you say 드리세요, it's like, hey, you lower yourself down and do this for me. It's not something that people say even jokingly in Korea because it doesn't make sense. So 드리다 wouldn't be ever used for a command unless, like I said, it's the mother commanding the child to give something to their teacher. It's like going up. So it's always for the speaker. So you could, hey, 드려요 for someone else, but you couldn't tell them, hey, 드려 for you. It would be really awkward. Like I said, it sounds like they're lowering themselves down to do something. Just like a real dance studio. 지금 해주시겠어요? Would you do it for me? That's very polite. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. If you do 해주시겠어요, it's like, would you do this for me now, please? It sounds very polite. In fact, 주시겠어요 is a very common way to ask favors. Put a little note that I can remind. We'll talk about that. Okay. The most obvious one is 해줘요. But we can do better than that. 주다, remember, we can make this honorific by using the verb 주시다 instead of 주다. So now it's honorific. We're respectfully raising the person that we're talking about, which conjugates as 주세요. 지금 해주세요. So please do it for me. Would you please do it for me? 지금 해주세요. Please do it for me now. Do it for me now. Okay. But we actually got a really good sentence from let me see. Oh yeah, Keith. I was like looking for your sentence. It was higher above. Keith gave an example. This sort of form, 주시겠어요, with a conjugated verb, in this case, 하다 to become 해. This sort of form is extremely common. I would just memorize this as being added onto a verb, conjugated verb. So in this case, 하다 becomes 해. It wouldn't be 해주시겠어요, remember. It has to be conjugated. So like 먹다 would be 먹어, 놀다 would be 놀아, or 살아 for to live, or 가다 is 가, like that. You have to get the conjugated version, and then you attach 주시겠어요 as a question. Memorize this as is. This is, I think, the easiest way to make a polite sounding, natural sounding request to someone. Something 해주시겠어요? 가주시겠어요? 봐주시겠어요? 보다, like to see. Would you look at it for me, please? Or just if you're asking them to give you something, 주시겠어요? 메뉴판을 주시겠어요? Can you give me a menu? 물 주시겠어요? Could you give me water? 반찬 더 주시겠어요? Could you give me some more 반찬? 김치 더 주시겠어요? 바꿔주시겠어요? Could you please change it for me? 여기 앉아주시겠어요? Would you please sit here for me? 봐주시겠어요? Would you look at this for me? 들어주시겠어요? Would you please listen to this for me? Like any verb. makes it into a polite command. So it's a question, but it sounds like you're, hey, could you please do this? Like, and I use this all the time, this sort of construction. But yeah, you could say, 지금 해주시겠어요? Would you please do this for me? Instead of saying, please do it, you're saying, could you please do it? So it's a question, but it sounds like, yeah, it sounds like a question, but it's actually like a command. So I would just learn this as is. We can also make this a little more formal sounding. Now, I think personally, this is the best way. 해주시겠어요? But we can have some fun. We can make it a little bit more formal. Not natural per se, but let me see. You could actually not 바랍니다. Not I hope you do, but let's do it. Let's do it even more. 부탁. Yeah, there we go. There now it's what I want. So 지금 해주시길 or 기를. This is the same as 기를. Just it shortens to. Sorry, it shortens to 길 with 기 with the object marker. So 부탁하다 is to request, to ask for. 부탁드리다. 드리다 is 주다. Again, this is to give. So this is 드립니다. I give you my request, literally. 부탁드리다 is a common construction that's used when you're asking for something politely, like very respectfully. It's kind of like saying, could I ask that you, or I ask that you would, like that. 부탁드리다. In this case, we're just going to conjugate it formally, 드립니다. So I would ask that you would do it for me right now. 지금 해주시길 부탁드립니다. Don't ask for 부탁드립니다 for like objects though. It sounds like really formal. Like I would ask that you would give me this. It sounds really awkward, but you could use it with favors like this. Could I ask you if you could do this for me? Like that. But you'll see it. Most often you'll see this as like 부탁드려요. Like 드리다 as 드려요. Like I would ask that you would do this. So if I could ask you to please do this now. Again, this is not necessarily the most natural way you're going to say this, but it's polite. Is it present tense? Yes. 니다 is the, just with 드립니다 is present tense. Stella's mom, hey. You like the background? What about the color? I've got it on blue. I can switch it if we want to try a different color. I just don't get to use it very often, so. I've used it like maybe a handful of times in all my videos. If you pay attention and you see I'm in front of like a colored background, it's this. But most of the time I just use my green screen or a black background. I have a black one that I use for my Korean FAQ videos. Or I just leave it white for the bulk of my older videos. Okay. I want to give you a polite sentence, and I want you to make it casual. Let's see. Just trying to make it more awkward while I'm writing it down. Not necessarily awkward, but like overly formal. Okay. 할머니께서는 주무시고 계십니다. Make this casual. Make this as casual as you can. Or you can try making it one step less casual. That's fine too. Welcome, Hyunjin. Change the background to red when I get angry. Oh, that's a good idea. Can do that. Be like, you didn't study. How dare you? Oh, you did? Okay, that's good to know. You only studied for 5 minutes? What are you saying? Oh, it was 5 minutes every single hour. Okay, that's good. I guess we could try doing that sometime. 할머니 자고 있어. Okay, 자고 있어. All right. 잠자니 자고 있냐? 자고 있어요. It's like, how dare you? They didn't switch. Let's try it again. I have to turn on my remote. Okay. Be like, hey, Billy. Hey, Billy, I actually didn't do any studying this week. How dare you? Like, something like that. You also can green, but I don't really like green. I think it's kind of weird. Blue's a little better. Okay, something like that. Just reading your replies. Try to make it casual. You don't have to make it absolutely casual, but go ahead. Any other level besides this. This is like as polite as I can make it. 자고 있어. Yes. 할머니는 자고 있어. Yes. Like, no. This doesn't have to be that you're being disrespectful to your grandmother, actually. If you're talking with your sibling, you would not be like this to your sibling, because the nida would be for someone you're showing respect toward. You wouldn't do it to your sibling. And then 계시다 is showing respect to the grandmother, but you don't necessarily need to do it if you're just talking with your sibling by yourselves. So yeah. It's like the Duolingo bird. Yes. The Duolingo bird. It's like, hey, wouldn't want to ruin your streak, right? Wouldn't want to ruin your streak, would you? Would you? No. Oh, of course not. Yeah. Okay. Let's try. First of all, let me take it down a little bit at a time. So instead of 계십니까, we can, of course, lower this right away to 계세요. And then instead of 주무시다, we can also just use 자다. 자고 계세요. Which is also okay. It's still polite. But if we're going to lower it here, let's lower it down further. 자고 있어요. So is sleeping. 깨서는, we can get rid of that. 할머니는 자고 있어요. And we can go a little bit farther down. 자고 있어. We can also lower this a little bit more. You might not have thought about this. I don't know if anyone got this, but the regular conjugation of a verb. So 하다 becoming 해 or 해요. Or 하세요. The regular present tense of any verb can be used for several things. It can be used for present tense, of course. Like if someone says, 자요, it can be present tense. I sleep, right? Like terrible things going on around the world. I sleep, like the Shaquille O'Neal meme. And then someone misuses romanization. And then like, I'm awake. Okay. So 해요 can mean I do as present tense. It can also be used as future tense. Believe it or not, like, are you going to the party? Oh, 가요. Yeah, I'm going. As in, I will go. It can be used for future tense, as long as the context is clear. If you're not trying to say, I will go, but you're just saying, yeah, I'm going. In the context of, will you go? Yeah, I'm going. Oh, 가요. But it can also be used to mean the same thing as the 고 있어요 form. Overall, this form is used for emphasizing that something's going on currently. But if you don't need to emphasize like it's right now, you just say like, oh yeah, 한국어 공부해요. Yeah, I study Korean, implying like it's not right now I'm studying Korean. You caught me off guard. But in general, I study Korean. I am studying Korean. 자고 있어요, you can also just say 자. 할머니는 자. Literally, grandmother sleeps, but it's translated more naturally as she is sleeping. You don't have to use the 고 있어요, 고 있다 form to say someone's currently doing something, unless you want to emphasize like right now, 자고 있어요, that she's sleeping right now, so don't bug her. But what's she doing? Oh, she's sleeping, 자. Unless it's necessary to emphasize that it's happening right now, you can just use the regular present tense for this sort of thing too. I know that's something difficult to grasp because in English, we always are specific about which tense we're using. Except for doing, like we have different uses for the doing or going forms like that in English. But in Korean, that present tense can act as several different uses. So yeah, 할머니는 다. Can we go any farther than this? Can we make this less casual? I don't know. Oh, BAP. Yeah, you could. Someone wrote something. So, you can kind of. There are other words for grandmother and grandfather. 할미 is. It's kind of like a. Is this dialect? Let me check if it's dialect. I know it's non-standard, so it's not a word you want to use like going around. I would say don't use it, to be careful, but there are some other words you can use for grandmother, grandfather, like that. There are also some dialect words you'll hear for them. I would say don't use it just to be safe, because if you use it about your own grandmother to your own sibling or your own best friend, it's fine, no one's gonna care. But if you accidentally use a casual word, like I guess for example, 아빠. If you're using this to talk about your own dad, it's totally fine. But if you're using this to talk about a stranger's dad or someone else's dad who you're not close with, it kind of sounds like you're being disrespectful. You want to use 아버지. Or even better, if you actually want to show respect, extra respect towards someone else's father, 아버님 is really common. Like if I want to talk about someone else's father, I'm not really close with that person, and I definitely don't know the father, I wouldn't say 아빠, I would say 아버님. Yes, but at least use 아버지, because then it's not going to be offensive. But yeah, 아빠 kind of sounds like you're just being too casual. So it's the same thing with other family words. They have those for a lot of words, like all of the family terms. So like son, daughter, brother, sister, all of those have a more polite version of them that you can use when you're talking about someone else's older brother, someone else's daughter or son. Like you would use 아들 to talk about a son just in general, someone's son. But if you're talking about someone else's son and you want to be respectful, you wouldn't use 아들, you would use 아드님, which is like, hey, and your son, and you talk about like that. So this is more respectful than just saying 아들 to someone else's son. Unless you're already familiar with them. So just be careful. It's better to err on the side of being too polite, because you can always make up for it by just kind of laughing and then them being like, oh, you don't have to say that, which is good, versus being too casual and then they're not going to tell you anything, but they'll feel like you're being disrespectful, especially if you're already having a conversation in Korean with them. Oh, hey, Kai, top of the hour donation. I was going to write your name twice. It's difficult to erase and write it again, so you just get your name on the board twice. That's how it works now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you, Kai, for your support. Your support goes directly into my my lunch for, I think my lunch for tomorrow, because tomorrow I really want to get barbecue. There's like a barbecue restaurant not too far from here that's also not too expensive. It's like fairly reasonably priced, and we have like I have like a coupon where you can save $5 and you get like a free dessert if you spend like $20 or something like that, which is really easy to do there. So I'm like, oh, I can get like a pretty huge meal if I do this. So yeah, I think it's going to go into my lunch for tomorrow. So thank you. Or act like you're not mad, but the screen turns red and we know. Oh yeah, that's right. That I'd read that before. 그랜드마 tal고 있어. 그랜드마, yeah. Do not call them grandma. Coupon. Yeah, coupons. I mean, I feel like I don't spend my money on like toys, entertainment very much. Even traveling. I'm very like, I mean, I say this as if I had a choice. I'm not like wealthy enough to do it, but I'm very picky with generally what I buy. I buy like, if it's like something I need for my channel, like my lighting equipment and my, you know, my actual equipment I need to do this thing, I don't really think twice before I buy it, because I'm like, well, obviously I need this to do my work, so I just buy it. But if it's something else, it's like, oh, I kind of want to get this movie. Like, I'll like justify not ever buying it. Like I'll wait for it to come out on, the streaming service that I'm borrowing from my younger brother. Like I'll just wait until I can watch it a different way. But food is different. Food, I'm like, for my mental health, I need to have tasty food every now and then, right? I can't just make tuna sandwiches every single day and bowls of cereal for dinner. Like I gotta eat food, right? Food is how I can maintain my mental health. So yeah, sometimes like a couple times a week, I'll be like, oh, I really want to eat this. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. I just have to. It's for my mental health. It's cheaper than therapy. Keeps me happy. Anyone, you all know what I'm talking about. It's just easy way to stay happy. If you have a coupon and Koreans know you didn't use it, does your standing with their faction decrease? Yes. Koreans like talking about getting stuff for a cheaper price, though it depends. It depends what it is. Not if you're giving it as a gift to someone else, then you don't want to brag about how you got it cheap or anything like that. I mean, I like to talk about that sort of stuff. So you are what you eat. It's good to have yummy food. Yes. Yeah, food is very important, I think. And Koreans realize that as well. They're serious about their food. They always ask you if you ate. They do care a lot about what you're eating, how you're eating. If you're not eating well, it sounds like you're not doing really well at all. So they'll care if you like lose too much weight, because then they're like, oh, you're not eating well, you're too stressed. Yeah, it's a thing to talk about. So if you ever don't know what to talk about with a Korean, send them a photo of the food you ate. Easy conversation. They like talking about that. Ask them to show you the food that they ate. Say, hey, send me a picture of whatever you ate today. It's like Instagram from the early 2010s, but they like that sort of thing. They like food. Tuna sandwich. Oh yeah, tuna sandwiches. Tuna sandwich is really good. I make a really good tuna sandwich. I can also make a pretty good egg salad sandwich. They expect you to be skinny, but they also feed you all the time. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so I want to do another one. Actually, that's how you pronounce them. Okay, let's do this. 나도 그 영화 봤어. I also saw that movie. 그 영화. I also saw that movie. What movie am I talking about? I'm talking about Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. I think it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. Yeah, I was expecting it to be garbage because I know how Tim Burton's kind of gone from the older movies he used to make. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, one of my favorite movies, top 10 movies ever. And then he did, Edward Scissorhands, the original Batman, Beetlejuice was his second movie. I followed his career. And those older movies have a certain charm to them that shows he really was putting his hands in the movie the whole time. But then he lost that later on. I think he kind of, accepts the producer role, kind of sitting back, let someone else deal with all the work that it takes, and then kind of loses a lot of what made him himself. And I think for this movie, he tried to go back to that. And I think he did an okay job. I think it could have still been a lot better, but it wasn't terrible. So I was pretty happy with that. Billy thinks we come here every week for a lesson, but it really is to talk about food. Thank you, Kai. My friends show me all that they prepared and ate for Chuseok. So Chuseok, if you are in Korea during Chuseok, which is actually happening, or just happened actually just last week, there is a next to zero chance that you will be invited to someone's house for Chuseok. So it's kind of like the Korean Thanksgiving. So they have lots of traditional Korean food, but it's typically only done with direct family members. So it's not like the Thanksgiving in the US where which is also with your family, but sometimes they invite friends. It's considered acceptable to invite your friends to Thanksgiving and stuff like that. That's not something I've experienced in Korea. So I've yet to this day, 20 years of studying Korean, almost to this day, I've never once participated in Chuseok for a meal. I'm jealous. Can't say I'm not jealous. I really want to try it someday. So if someone is doing Chuseok in Korea, if you're Korean, invite me. I would love to go to your house, film a video. This is what Koreans eat for Chuseok, because I've never experienced it myself. I've seen photos. I know like generally how it works, but I've never gotten to experience it. Friendsgiving, yeah. 저도 그 영화 봤습니다. Nice, Suzanne. 저도 그 영화 봤어요. Nice. Got a lot of good answers here. 본 적 있는데요. Okay, you can add 는데요, yes. 시청. Okay, George, you're talking about 시청. Yeah, 시청 is like... 시청, the nuance though is different. It's not so much just to watch. Literally, 시 is view, 청 is here, so it's like to view and listen to, like to... Not to see, but anyway, it's like to see and listen to. So you can use like 시청하셨습니다, like they have viewed the movie, but it's not something you're going to use as a separate verb like that. Yeah, it's not what you'd use if you're asking someone if they watched a movie. But yeah, you could use it if, I mean, you could, if we're making goofy over formal sentences, then yeah, feel free. Okay, 나도 그 영화 봤어. So I also saw that movie. Well, we can do a few things. We can, right away, we can make it a little bit more polite by adding 요. Now, there is something wrong with this though. Not wrong, but potentially awkward. And that is using 요, which shows I respect the person I'm talking with. I respect you. Whereas na means I don't feel like, however, that I need to lower myself, because using tall is actually humble speech. Tall is like lowering yourself as the speaker. Like I'm going to put you a little bit above me. Like in that way, I'm going to be polite. But if you use na, it's like, I don't consider that I have to do that. Maybe I'm much older than you. So I'm not going to lower myself to you, but I want to be polite. So I'm going to use 요. And this sort of speaking is kind of, I think, a bit awkward, because it's like, they're not sure how they should talk with you. Like, I'm older than you, so I don't need to show respect, but I'm going to use 요 so that it doesn't sound like I'm rude. So this is something you're not really going to use this when you're speaking Korean, but you might hear other people do sometimes. That's kind of what's going through their head. They're like, I want to be polite, but I don't actually want to be fully polite. Like, I don't want to lower myself to you, kind of. There are some legitimate situations though when this is okay, but most of the time it's a little bit awkward. So already we need to fix this, or I shouldn't say fix because it's not wrong, but we need to make it better for an actual learner's usage and change this to tall, which I said lowers the speaker. So it's tall is humble speech. Like 저도 I also 그 영화 봤어요. We could make this a little bit better. We can add back the object marker, because there should be an object marker here. And if you add it back, it makes the sentence sound a little bit more formal. And then 봤어요, we could also make this a little bit better. 봤습니다. So I have also watched that movie. I've also seen that movie. And you can kind of do other things with this. Like someone had written 본 적 있는데요. Like I also have seen that movie. But that's not making it more formal. It's just making the sentence longer. 저도 그 영화를 봤습니다. So I also watched that movie. Yeah. 봤습니다. Oh, Flo Purdy. Small typo for Flo. 봤습니다. Not 습니다. 제 미국 선생님을 너무 좋아해요. I really like my American teacher. Like if I were the older one, but they're a 선배, or vice versa. No, not that sort of situation either. Like the president of Korea wouldn't need to, someone who's assumed to be in a higher position. Like obviously that person's in a higher position than me. That kind of situation is where you wouldn't humble yourself down, because it's like, I'm not humbling myself down. I'm like speaking to you, down to you, my servants, like that sort of situation. But it's not going to be really appropriate in most situations, I would say. I think though you'll hear it a lot, but it kind of comes out when the person isn't sure how they should be talking with you. And then when they get to know you and they talk with you a little more, then they'll be like, oh wait, I don't need to speak with you. It's like, why? You know, I'm older than you anyway. I'll use casual speech. But it's not super common. And then even more weird would be like 입니다, 합니다. That would be 100% like the president could use that again. I'm speaking in a formal situation, but there's no way I'm lowering myself to you because I'm technically much higher in my status. So that sort of situation is more appropriate for it. But the na with you, the most common place you'll hear that, like I said, is going to be people who are a little bit older. I'd say not even like really old or anything like that, but like people who are like in their 50s and above, talking with someone who's like in their 30s or below. I would need a Korean to tell me the exact ages that would sound appropriate to them. But that's my guess. It's going to be something like that. Someone a little bit older talking to someone a bit significantly younger than them. And it's like, I'm not going to lower myself, but I don't want to sound rude. Yeah. But I would not mimic that style of speech is what I'm saying. Oh, Michael says, 배웠습니다. So, 뵙다 is used as a way of... So you're asking about 뵙다. Okay. Yes and no. 뵙다 and 뵈다 are both 보다, to see, but there's some differences. Now, these are humble speech. So these would only be used by the speaker saying that they saw something. 뵙다 is slightly more formal, even a little more formal, but these both conjugate in the yo form as 봬요 or 뵈어요. But most of the time you'll see 봬요. They both conjugate the same. If you're conjugating the yo form, just keep that in mind. It's not 뵈보여 or anything like that. These are humble speech. So yeah, you would have to be the person to say that you saw something, but these are not used with things that you see, because you're not going to be humbly seeing something, if that makes sense. You're going to be humbly seeing a person, someone that you're going to raise up above yourself. You're going to lower yourself to it. You're not going to do that to a thing. It's going to be a person. So these are used commonly, not even to mean to see, but to mean to meet. So you're saying see, but what you mean is meet someone, which is why these are used in the expression, which is not used anymore, except like older people might use this, but it's really rare now. There is a Korean expression, 처음 뵙겠습니다, which you may have heard before. Do not use this, ever. It's very awkward now, but it's an older expression. You might hear people who are much older using this or responding to it fine, because it used to be standard, like, I don't know, 60 years ago or so. It was much more standard for a polite situation. 처음 뵙겠습니다, literally, 처음 is the first time. 뵙겠습니다, like, I must be seeing you this must be the first time that I'm seeing you, literally. But it's implying meeting. This must be the first time we met. Oh, it's the first time we met. Oh, today, right now, this is the first time I've ever met you before. It's just a very polite way of saying nice to meet you. But it's used to imply meeting a person. So yeah, you don't want to use it with like other things that aren't something that you would want to raise above yourself as showing that they're more they're respected and everything. To look upon your visage, I am honored. Yes, that's very good, what it's used for. But I'm not saying that 뵙다 and 뵈다 are not used. 뵙다, 뵈다. These are used all the time, but not in that expression, 뵙겠습니다. You'll use it, not 뵙다. 뵙다 isn't really used very much because it's a little bit too formal, but 뵈다 is used all the time, and I recommend using it if you're going to be using 보다 about a person. Every single time, if you want to talk about that you're going to see, as in meet, or see someone, doesn't have to be meeting. Now, meeting doesn't have to be for the first time. I should clarify that. Meeting is just you're going to be in the same place as them. You're going to physically see them. That sort of see. If you're talking with your friend and you want to see you're gonna see them tomorrow, you can just say 내일 봐 or 내일 봐요 if you want to be extra polite, but usually you don't need this. Just 내일 봐. 그럼 다음에 또 봐. Right? That's 봐. That's casual. Now, excuse me for saying that for the past 12 years, but 그럼 다음에 또 봐. It's just me, goofily acting as that crazy version of myself that you saw in the first few episodes when I first started this YouTube channel, and I just kind of kept it. But it's very casual. You would only use that to your friends, your close friends who are the same age as you or younger. 내일 봐. 그럼 다음에 또 봐. Then see you next time. If you wanted to be polite, though, you would not say 봐 or even 봐요 because it's still too casual. If you want to actually be respectful, you use 봬요. 내일 봬요. 내일 봬요. Now, it's 봬요, but most people don't pronounce this when it's in a diphthong. They pronounce diphthongs as simply as possible. So like, oh, this one is mostly pronounced as just this. This one's mostly pronounced as this. So just keep that in mind. When you see a diphthong, it's most often pronounced just as the right vowel when it's said quickly. If you're saying it slowly, you'll say 봐, 이거 봐, 이거 봐, like that. But if it's said quickly, 봐, 봐, 봐. So yeah, 내일 봬요, 내일 봬요. So it's used all the time, 뵈다. Another way you'll commonly see it is with the 게요 form. 뵐게요. 내일 뵐게요. 내일 뵐게요. I'll see you tomorrow. As in, I will. I'm going to. Future. 내일 뵐게요. I will see you tomorrow. Or 배웠어요. Or 만나 뵙다. 만나 뵙다. I've also seen like 만나 뵈다 is like I'll get to meet you. 만나 보다. So yeah, you'll see it. Just keep your eye out for it. It's used all the time. It's very common. It's not overly respectful. No respect for Beetlejuice. No, like I said, it was okay. It was not offensive to me. It didn't make me groan or say like, okay, he's lost it. Why did he make this? It's totally a cash grab. Parts of the movie felt like the studio was saying you have to do a callback to this. You have to put this in the movie. In fact, about a half of the movie was kind of like, why is this in here? Like they could have removed the sandworm. They could have removed like this and this because it doesn't help the story at all. It's not necessary. But the other half was legitimately new, fun stuff that I was like, oh, this is Tim Burton. Like if they didn't do the other half, it would have been like better than the original. So good. But it was acceptable. It was better than a lot of the other like reboots they do of like old franchises. So yeah. Okay. Let's do one more. Let's do another one. Actually, let's make it even more. 철수. Let's do 철수 씨. Let's make it even more polite. Someone says, oh wait, they don't use she anymore. They actually do. They use she all the time. For anyone who's younger than you, it would be weird to use 님. 철수 씨는 사과를 드셨어요. So 철수, Mr. 철수, ate an apple. How can we make this sentence more casual? Right now it's very polite. 철수 씨는 사과를 드셨어요. So 철수 ate an apple. Emily says, which should you use when saying see you next week? 다음 주에 봬요. 뵈다. 다음 주에 봬요. 다음 주 봬요. 다음 주에 봬요. I'll see you next week. Don't say 다음 주 봐요. 다음 주 만나요. 다음 주 봬요. Okay, 철수는 사과 먹었어. There you go. That's one. There's even a shorter version. We can get it a little bit shorter than that, but we'll talk about that in a second. We're just going to do a live stream for another, 15 minutes. 철수 사과 먹었어. Okay, you can actually cut off the topic marker completely, yes. That's totally fine to do. It's like, well, actually, I'll talk about the why, but let's see some other sentences first. 철수 씨는 좋은 사람인 것 같아요. It's not what we're doing in the sentence, but yes, that sentence is correct. I think 철수's a good person. Yeah, 철수's probably a good person. 철수 사과 먹었어. 철수 사과 먹었어. Okay? So I see people removing this completely. That is fine to do. Note that if you don't put any particle after someone or something who's doing something in the sentence, so normally that like something you would put like the nun or the i or ka marker after, like the topic or the subject marker, it is assumed that you're saying the topic marker. So if you don't, I'll say that once more time. If you don't add any sort of particle or marker after a word, and that word you're using is the main part of the sentence, which normally would be marked with this, or I or ka, it's assumed you're saying the topic marker. So if you remove this one, it's not assumed you mean nun because it's obviously it's not doing something in the sentence. So it'll be assumed you're talking about the object marker here. But in this case, 철수씨, we know that it's talking about 철수씨 is the one that ate the apple. So it normally would be marked by either the topic marker or the subject marker, right? So when it's not there, it's assumed you're talking about the topic marker. So if you say 철수씨 사과를 드셨어요, it's kind of awkward to remove it by still keeping the sentence polite. But anyway, if you were saying the sentence like 나는 먹었어요, 나는 사과를 먹었어, like that. If you just say 나, it's assumed you mean 나는, not 내가, just for intonation's sake, for the nuance. So yeah, you can just remove it anytime you want. So we could do that. We could remove this. Instead of 드셨어요, we can have 먹었어 or 먹었어요, right? We can make it a little bit more casual because we're not going to use she. You wouldn't use 철수씨 사과 먹었어. It's kind of like, I mean, yeah, you could, talking with your friend about 철수, who you still want to be polite toward, use 철수씨는 사과를 먹었어. And you're talking to your friend. So you're casual, but you're still being polite to 철수. But now we can even make it less polite to 철수. So it's just 철수. It's not even a Mr. It's just 철수, just the name. 철수 사과 먹었어. Okay. Or 철수는 사과 먹었어. That's also fine too. We can even make this a little bit shorter, believe it or not. If someone asks, 철수 씨는 뭐 먹었어? 뭐 먹었어요? What did 철수 eat? You could answer the question, 철수는 사과 먹었어. So like, 철수는 뭐 먹었어? What did 철수 eat? 철수는 사과 먹었어. But you could also just say something like this. 철수는 사과. Now, it doesn't mean 철수 ate an apple. It means, well, for 철수, it's an apple. And for me, 난 피자. 철수는 사과. You can kind of say something like that. Like if someone says, hey, what did you eat? Tell me, everyone, what did you all eat today? And they're like, oh, 난 피자 먹었어. 난 샐러드. You're talking with your friends and they say, okay, everyone, what are you going to order today? And you're at the restaurant. 뭐 주문할 거야? 뭐 시킬 거야? What are you going to order? Oh, 난 김밥. That's a very natural way of saying I'm getting 김밥. You don't have to say 난 김밥 할 거야 or 주문할 거야, 시킬 거야. Just say 난 김밥. For me, 김밥 is what it means. For me, like as for me, 김밥. And someone else can say, 난 피자, 난 초밥. I don't know what restaurant would sell 김밥 and pizza and sushi, but you get the idea. I mean, a buffet would have that. 난 김밥, 난 피자, 난 pasta, like that. And you can assume that it means whatever else comes after it is just assumed. Like I'm ordering or I ate or anything like that. 난 김밥. It doesn't mean I am kimbap. It means for me, kimbap, like that. 난 nacho. Though, okay, you should know something about nacho in Korean. Okay, these are I don't know why I drew a square. It's like the Minecraft nacho. Okay, This is when you order nachos in Korean. Nacho. I don't even want to, it's not even called nacho. This is the word, this is what nachos are in Korea. It is a plate that has a handful of chips. These are not unlimited. There is no such thing as free refills of chips in Korea, at least not that I know of. And one tiny, like this big, I'm not exaggerating, like this big bowl of either the melted Velveeta cheese, you know what I'm talking about? The regular nacho cheese you get at the movie theater or like a sports game. And some places will also give you a little tiny one of salsa sauce, which is, it's like the smooth version of salsa you would buy in a jar. You know what I'm talking about? Not like, normally if you get salsa, you kind of think of it as being like really fresh or like really flavorful, or maybe it's like chunky with pieces of tomato, like pico de gallo or something like that. It's not usually that. It'll be like some kind of mashed version of the regular tomato salsa that you can buy. So it's like, it's not terrible, but it's not great. So you'll get that with maybe a little tiny thing of nacho cheese and then a handful of chips. That's what's considered to be nacho. Usually this one, the cheese one. In Korea. Like what we would say if you get nachos at the movie theater, it means a handful of chips and a little cup of nacho cheese. The type of nachos that you're thinking of when I say nacho is going to be the one where you get an entire plate covered with cheese, sour cream, guacamole. There's like pico de gallo on it. There's like meat added on top, right? And maybe there are like 3 kinds of cheese in there and you pull off the chip. Even just eating that chip with cheese already is good. And then you dip that in more cheese or sour cream or whatever and you eat it, like olives on it. That sort of thing I've never seen. I'm sure there's some restaurants that have it. I haven't seen it yet. I would like to get that sometimes when I'm in Korea, but yeah, that's nacho when I'm saying it. This is just a rant. You can tell I'm like frustrated by the quality of Mexican food in Korea. It's like, recently my mom took us out to lunch, and we went to a Mexican restaurant. The Mexican restaurant's pretty good. It's like, you know, it's just good. It's always good. And of course they give free chips, because what place doesn't give you unlimited free chips? But I was just eating them, like this giant bowl of fresh chips. I'm just eating them all. This giant bowl of salsa. Eating it with my wife. Finished them. Hey, can I get some more chips? Yeah, sure. Brings an entire thing over. Doesn't question us. Doesn't ask if we're okay. Doesn't try to cut us off. We're like, eat another bowl. Eat the whole bowl. We almost finished the second bowl, but then our food came. But it's like, just give us the chips. They don't cost much money, I know. But yeah, in Korea, chips are typically expensive, and the chips they give you, I've found a lot of times it is what they do is the places that buy them, some places will just buy bags of them, but places will also make them themselves by just cutting a corn tortilla into like 6 pieces and then boiling them in a pan, which is okay. But the chips are usually thicker because of that. Anyway. Oh, hey, Raymond. Keeping the 30-minute donation dream alive. Thank you, Raymond. I didn't know I got a 30-minute. Maybe I need to do another 30 minutes then, so I can pay for some decent Mexican food. Thank you, Raymond. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And another thing, it's so expensive too in Korea. It's like I paying like, you know, 30,000 won, or like $20 or $25 for this meal. 2, 3, 10. At least the least they can do is give me unlimited chips, or like at least give me so many chips that I'm not going to ask for a refill. Like, you know, actually fill up like a bowl. It can't cost that much. I've made salsa before. I've made nachos before. It's dirt cheap. Like the cheese that they use is the Velveeta cheese. It's not expensive if you buy it in bulk, and it's even cheaper if you make it. You know, you're a restaurant, you can make that stuff. It's not high quality. The nacho cheese stuff is really low quality. They just give it for free. Raise your prices of all your food like 1,000 won, like less than $1, and just give everyone unlimited chips. You'll be the talk of the town. The bee's knees, I say. Those are those chips that come with the sauce packet in a bag. Yes, those are, okay, so I'm describing the best case scenario when you go to an actual Mexican restaurant in Korea and they actually have a nacho chips on the menu, or like chips and salsa on the menu, and you get that. That's what you'll get. If you go to other restaurants that have chips and salsa, but it's not a Mexican restaurant, but maybe they have a variety of food or a buffet that has chips and salsa, you do not get what I just described. You get the version that you said where the salsa is sweet. It's sweet, for crying out loud. It's who puts sugar in salsa? I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's just disgusting. Okay. Here in Europe, I've never gotten unlimited free chips. Well, that's why you got to live in the land of the free chips. You got to, in the slogan for America that you got to see, look really closely next to land of the free, there's chips written in like size 1 font. It's really small. It's what's keeping me in the US. I not being over in Korea all the time is just the free chips. Just got to stay here. Hey, can I get some more chips? Of course. What's of course in Spanish? I know French, bien sûr. What's Spanish? It's probably like bueno sur something with that in it. I don't know. I don't know the Spanish word for of course. Anyway, no free stuff in Australia. Is it claro? Claro is or claro or claro? I don't know. I never learned enough Spanish. Por supuesto. Claro que sí. Claro que sí. Okay. So they just say claro. Right. Yeah, it's like, can I get a refill of this? Of course. Of course you can. Because it costs us nothing to give you more chips. Nothing. I went to a restaurant and got chips with my order. It was like if you answer a survey on their receipt, the next time you get free chips and salsa. So they give you a giant bag of chips for free. They don't care. And I saw the lady, she opened the cabinet. They have a chip cabinet. It's this giant cabinet that just keeps them hot. They open it up, scoop this giant scoop, put them in a bag, just give it to them. Like they give it to you like they're handing you a packet of ketchup. Like they don't care. They're not like weighing it or like, oh, I didn't give enough. Like she just filled the bag and handed it to me. Like, come on, they're not expensive. I'm sure they're like a few cents more in Korea than they are in the US, but like give them of the few cents. I could go on a rant about this. There's a famous video of a guy. I'm getting way off track. Okay, let's go back to some sentences. Okay, we can do this. Okay, make this sentence polite. 우리 집에, so at my house, literally our house, at my house, books. 책이 많은데. There are lots of books at my house, though. So, there are lots of books at my house. How do we make this sentence more polite? There's an easy way we can do it, but I just want to see. There are a couple things we can change to make it more polite. And there's another trick in here. There's something hidden. You might not find, but I'll show you that. Like, okay, while you're thinking of that, I'll let you know something cool. So, I took a marketing class once, and they made us watch this video that was called Give Them the Pickle by a famous guy who owned an ice cream parlor, who's like really famous ice cream parlor. He sold it and it went bankrupt and disappeared. But while he owned it, it was really popular. And you can find the video, and he explains about how some like restaurants will want to nickel and dime people like, hey, we don't want to give them this item because it's going to be too expensive for us or something like that. But he talked about how it's like, no, it's like giving them the free item or whatever, because it makes them have a good experience, even though it costs you a couple cents. For them, it's like a huge value. So that's kind of what chips at Mexican restaurants are for, it's not like, that they're not free for the restaurant. They don't cost nothing. They cost the restaurant their money and time to make them fresh and to buy the ingredients for them. It takes them a lot of time and equipment to do that. But they do that obviously because it's like what you expect, and it kind of keeps you going back there. And if you ever went to a Mexican restaurant in the US and they didn't give you a refill of chips, I guarantee you would stop going there. You'd be like, that is so stingy, right? Yeah. So it's something just to notice. And it's the same thing with kimchi in other countries. Like specifically, I heard from my friend who lives in Japan that if you get Korean food in Japan, they'll give you a small bowl of kimchi with your meal if you ask for it. But if you want a refill, you have to pay for it. Like they don't keep giving you unlimited side dishes in Japan. They kind of do in the US. They'll keep giving you side dishes if you ask for more. But I heard in Japan, my friend says that they don't. You have to pay for it. But it's like, how much does it really cost to make kimchi? It's so cheap. As someone who's made it before, you give someone a handful of kimchi. What are you giving them? Like 20 cents? Maybe if you have high quality ingredients. Like just give them the kimchi. Give them the chips, you know. Anyway, that's my business rant. Metele is, what's that mean? Does that mean like of course in Paraguayan slang? 우리 집에는 많은 책이 있습니다. So you already have 많아요. So you can just do 책이 많아요. You don't need to say there are many books. You just say there are a lot of books. There are many books in my home. Yes. 저희 되게... Okay, Brenda. Brenda gave a nice example that will illustrate something I want to mention. Brenda used tech, but now it's actually wrong, but I'm pointing it out because someone else might have the exact same thought. So what is tech? Tech is a honorific word. That's the problem. Tech is a honorific word for 집. It means house. So what does that imply? Well, it means you can't use it about your own house. Tech is how you refer to someone else's house that you want to show extra respect for, like your 할머니 댁, 선생님의 댁, the teacher's house, your grandmother's house, like that. 댁, and that's very commonly used when you want to talk, be extra respectful about someone else's house. You don't have to though. You can just say 할머니 집, 선생님 집. But you want to be extra respectful, then you use 댁, but not your own house. So if it was someone else's 집에 책이 많아요, then you could do this. But I think this is like spreading it now. This is not working. Oh, this is bad. I need to get, okay, I gotta get rid of this. It's like leaving like skid marks on my board. Hold on, I'm gonna throw this away. I'll be right back. Oh, my trash can. Oh, okay, let me get a new one. Okay. So it's kind of like hid it in my closet. There we go. Okay, that was just really bad. So 우리 집에 책이 많은데. We can make this more polite really quickly by doing a couple things. So not changing 집 to tek, but the obvious one is adding a 요 at the end, right? That's one way to make it. We can also make it more polite. Can anyone, let's see if anyone wrote this. Oh yeah, a few people also got this as well. Brenda got this as well. 우리 is a regular word that means our. It's not rude, it's not impolite or anything. In fact, I've heard some people, they have the misunderstanding that 우리 is casual or not polite. It's not, it's totally fine. It's not a formal or extra polite word, but it itself is not rude. Optionally, if you want to sound more polite, use the word 저희, which is actually just from 저. So it's the humble version of we. So it's the way to make it, you're lowering yourself down. Now you might think, well, if I'm lowering myself down and I'm in a group with someone else who's higher than me, can I still use 저희? Yes. It's not that strict in how you can use this word. You can just think of 저희 as a more polite version of 우리. So even if you're referring to yourself and your teacher and the principal and the king of Switzerland, do they have a king? You can still use 저희 if you want to be polite. You're like, hey, all of us, I'm speaking for all of us. Normally, though, you can't lower down someone else. You can't say someone else is doing something with humble speech. That would be rude. But for 저희, it's just considered to be a word that means polite, we. So yeah, optionally, you can change 우리 to 저희. And now we have a very polite sentence. 저희 집에 책이 많은데요. Is there anything else we could do with this sentence? Is there any way we can make it more polite? There kind of is. For general sentences, though, this is done. But there is a slightly more formal sounding version of the sentence ending 대우. I don't even have space here. I'm gonna rewrite it so I have space. Okay. 저희 집에 책이 많습니다만. Now this 씁니다 or 합니다 or 니다만 is just a combination of the regular formal ending, like 많습니다, there are, and 만, like however. So it's kind of a replacement for the 대우 form or like the 지만 form almost, but it doesn't end it doesn't connect the sentence like 지만 does. This ends the sentence. 많습니다만. Like, although there are lots of books at our house. So this is just more formal sounding version of the 대 form. If you want, you can take note of that. I don't think I've done a lesson about it, but it's kind of, because it's not that commonly used, but you will hear people in speeches use this kind of language. Let's see. But it's lots of work to make kimchi. Yes, that is true, but there is, if any of you wants to try making kimchi and you don't want to spend a lot of time, normally making kimchi, I've done it before 3 times. It takes like 3 days because you spend one day, you're like washing it and then you let it dry and then you salt it and then you let it sit there and let it salt for a long time. And then you put it in the, you get it coated and everything and you let it sit then and you put it in the jar and you let it sit for another couple days at least. Sometimes you can let it sit longer if you want it more sour, but it's time intensive. You can't do it in one day. Unless you rush. But there is a type of kimchi you can make it really quick in just like a really short amount of time. And that is 막김치. The reason is that, let me find a picture if I can. The reason is that you make it and you add just the right amount of the seasoning that you're going to need when it's done. Not too much. Normally when you make kimchi, you add a lot extra because you want it to be completely coated and then you get rid of the excess kind of and you put it in the jar. But 막김치, you just add exactly how much you need. You chop it up. You don't wait for it to ferment. You just chop it up as it is and then you put it in the jar and put it in your refrigerator and it's done. In fact, you can eat it right away. And it's common to eat 막김치 actually with certain types of food. Like I believe 보쌈. Yeah, I think 보쌈 is the one you do it with, right? Yeah. But it's common just to eat it right away and then you can let it sit for a while if you wanted to, but you usually don't. You usually just stick it right in your fridge and it's done. So that doesn't take very long to make and it's really good. It's not the same type of kimchi that you get at restaurants, usually, although some restaurants will still have it, but it's still a way to make kimchi that's super fast. So the restaurants could just do 막김치 if they want to save money and save time. It's just add the ingredients, chop it up, done. That's it. Like you could do it in the morning. And make a ton of it because cabbage is fairly cheap, that kind of Napa cabbage. Okay. I've never made 막김치 though because I always prefer the full kind of kimchi, which is known as 포기 kimchi. 포기 meaning a head of cabbage. They use 포기. So it's like it uses the whole head of cabbage and you salt the entire thing and then you coat the entire and wash it off and let it dry and then coat the entire thing in the sauce. And then you put the entire thing into the jar and then you take it out and you cut it after it's all fermented. That's pogi kimchi and that's my favorite because I love all the different parts of the cabbage. I think it ends up tasting really good and really fermented, but it does take a lot of time to do. You have to properly let it get salted and then after it's salted you have to wash it or else it's just going to be grossly salty, which I've done once but I didn't wash it enough and the end pieces were grossly salted. So... 요리도 하시나 봐요. Oh, I cook. Yeah, I cook a lot. Giving mints after a meal with a check increases the tip. Even better if you forget one and then bring it to the table. I like that. I like when places will bring you like oranges after your meal, right? They'll bring your check, but they'll also bring like a little cup full of oranges and they'll place it on your table with like toothpicks in it. That's really fun too. They do that at like some Chinese restaurants I know here. Okay. So let me see how many sentences we've done. We did that sentence. I still have a couple more. I did a couple more. Okay. I'm going to do one that's really simple. Let me rewrite this. It's a little messy. Okay. 잘 몰랐어. 잘 implying well, like much. I didn't really know much. I didn't know much about it. 잘 몰랐어. 잘 몰랐어. How would you make this polite? Now, there are no tricks here. There's nothing special. I just want to give you an easy one that you can try. Because we've done a bunch of them that are like, you know, tricky, that you have to change this or change this. I just want to give you one that's kind of easy. You don't really have to think too much about. 잘 모르겠어요. You could change it to 모르겠어요. Although 모르겠어요 and 몰라요 are different. So this one, in this case, it's 몰랐어. I didn't know. Past tense. 잘 몰랐어요. Nice. Oh yeah, so we have several people repeating the 모르겠어요. 모르겠어요 is different than 모르다. different nuance. So it would not be 모르겠어요 or any version of that. Yeah, it's actually simpler than you're thinking. You're making it harder for yourselves. It's simpler than that. Yeah. Greek yogurt, that's good. You got one of the right answers. There are actually a couple that we can do for this. 잘 몰랐습니다. Yes, yes. 잘 몰랐습니다. Yeah. So you can do a few different things. You can change it to 몰랐어요, as many of you did, or actually many of you didn't do that. Many of you did this one, which is also fine. 몰랐습니다. 잘 몰랐습니다. 잘 몰랐습니다. I didn't really know. I wasn't sure. Yeah. This one wasn't a trick. This was just supposed to be kind of an easy one. 모르겠다 is not the same thing as 몰라요. 몰라요 and 모르겠어요. So 모르다 and 모르겠다. These are different. 모르겠어요. 겠어요 is used as a would meaning. So if you say 모르겠어요, it's like would not. 잘 모르겠어요. I wouldn't know, because 모르다 means to not know. So now it's would not know versus 몰라요 is I do not know. 모르겠어요 tends to therefore sound a little bit more polite when you want to say you do not know something. If you just say 몰라요, it's like, hey, I don't know. I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know. Versus 모르겠어요, like I'm not sure is what it implies. Although they both mean I don't know, this one's more soft sounding because it's like, it's not saying that you do not know, but it's like, oh, that's not something I would know. 잘 모르겠어요. So you'll often hear 모르겠어요 used as an excuse when someone says they don't know something. They want to sound more polite, not by saying they don't know, but that they would not know. But you'll hear both. If you want to say I didn't know something, though, you can't change it to 모르겠어요 because that's not I didn't, but I do not. So 몰랐어요. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. You wouldn't say 몰랐겠어요. I would not have known that. That's like you're not taking responsibility for it, right? Hey, why did you do that? That's wrong. Oh, 몰랐겠어요. Like I would not have, like it sounds awkward. It doesn't make sense. But you would say, oh, 몰랐어요. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not, straightforward. I did not know. Not, why did you do that? Oh, 모르겠어요. Well, I wouldn't know. Don't ask me. In which case it sounds bad. It sounds like you're avoiding it completely. So in this, it's better just to be straightforward. If someone says, why did you do that? That's terrible. Why did you do that? Oh, 몰랐어요. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Versus, 모르겠어요. Oh, I don't know. Beats me. Why did I do that? That's a good question to ask myself in the mirror. Hey, why did you do that? 모르겠네요. Haha, he doesn't know either. So yeah, different nuance. That's also the same nuance with 알다 and 알겠다. You'll typically see people use 알겠다 more often than 알아요. Like, I know. Hey, stop talking. I know. I guess, okay. I would get that. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. 알다 meaning to know, but it's implying understand. Like, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I would understand that. Okay, that makes sense. Kind of like that. Versus, why are you telling me? 알아요. I already know that. Don't talk to me about that. I already know. 알아요. So. 알지 않습니다. I do not know. Yeah. You don't use 알지 않다 though. That doesn't exist. I could talk about why if you're curious. I'll give you the why really quick. Typically, if you're using the opposite of 알다, it's 모르다. But if you want to say not that 몰라요, not that I don't know, but you're saying I do not, like, it's not that I know, it's like I literally do not know that. You can also use the opposite version of 알다 directly with 알지, not 않다, 못하다. 알지 못해. It's like impossible to know. I cannot know. So you're not saying I don't know. If you're just saying I don't know, use 모르다, as in the opposite of knowing something. The absence of knowledge is 모르다. It's not something I can know. It's actually not possible for me to know. But use it with 못하다, which means I cannot know. Like physically cannot know. That sort of meaning. If you use 지 않다, this is a regular way to make verbs negative in Korean, like 가다, to go. You can say 가지 않아요, I don't go, right? Or 안 가요, I don't go. There's different nuance to that, but I'll talk about this for a second. If you say you do not do something, not that you can't do something, but you say you do not do something, that implies choice. I'll give you an example. Which one of these would you use if you wanted to say you don't speak Korean? Someone says, oh, do you speak Korean? 아니요, 저는 한국어. You could say something like 안 해요 or 못해요. Or if you use it with this form, 하지 않아요 or 하지 못해요. This is a mistake I've heard like people who are completely fluent in Korean for the most part make. This sort of mistake. 알 수 없다 is the same thing. I cannot know. Cool. 알 수 없어요. There's no way of knowing is literally what 알 수 없다 means. There is no way. 수 is like a method or like a way, an ability to do something. So it's like literally saying there is no way of knowing. 알 방법. 알 수가 없어요. There is no way to know that. It's unknowable. 한국어 하지 않아요? 한국어 하지 못해요? So one of these is actually both of these are grammatically correct. And both of these could be used in some situation, but the one you want to use is 하지 못해요. I cannot speak Korean. Literally, it's impossible for me to. I cannot speak. In this case, 하다 with a language means speak. So you say 하다 for a language, to speak the language. 하지 못해요. I can't speak Korean. If you say 하지 않아요, it means I do not speak Korean. So it sounds perfectly fine, but it means I will not speak Korean. That's what it implies. The nuance of does not means it's your choice. So it's like saying, I'm not speaking Korean. Oh, 한국어 하세요? Do you speak Korean? I'm not speaking Korean. They'll know what you mean. They'll know you don't speak Korean well if you say that because it sounds wrong. But grammatically, it's okay. Like, for example, someone says, what language do you speak when you are arguing with your spouse in Korean? I get this question a lot. Like, Billy, what language do you and your spouse speak when you're arguing or something? I could say, 싸울 때는 when we fight, when we argue, 전 한국어 하지 않아요. I do not speak Korean. Implying I doesn't mean I can't. I just choose I will not speak Korean when I'm arguing with my wife. Now, this is not my actual answer. I'm just saying, for example, you could use 한국어 하지 않아요. Like, I went to whenever I'm traveling in Korea, 한국어 하지 않아요. I don't speak Korean when I travel in Korea, as implying that it's my choice, right? Not that I can't, but I just choose not to. 하지 않아요. I don't speak Korean. So it could be a perfectly correct sentence to say 한국어 하지 않아요. But if you mean it as I don't speak Korean well, like as in I can't, not that I'm choosing to, but I actually can't, you have to use 못해요, or you also have these same options, 안 해요 or 못해요. Yeah. 안해요, same thing. I don't, as in it's my choice. 못해요, I can't. So 전 미국에 있을 때는, so when I'm in America, 한국어 안 해요. I don't speak Korean when I'm in America. Obviously I can. I said that sentence in Korean. 네, 한국어 잘 못해요. I can't speak Korean well. So yeah, keep in mind that the 못 or 지 못하다 is the can't, and the 안 or 하지 않아요, like that one, is the won't, does not. Why are people curious about how a couple chooses to fight? I think they're just curious, like, what do you do about communication when you're both stressed? Like, what would you keep speaking in Korean even when you're feeling stressed about your situation? Like, would you still would you still try as hard as you can to keep your Korean going even in that situation? That's kind of what they're curious about. Like, what's natural to you when you're upset? I don't know. I think when we're talking about anything, whether it's like arguing or just talking, we're just going to use whatever. I don't think it's really like, oh, we always go to Korean or we always switch it up. Like, some people will prefer to use their own languages or use the other's language, or they mix it. I don't think it really matters. Like, it's whatever, I'll speak however it gets the point across faster. So that could be just in English. If it's something like basic, or sometimes it could be something really short and I'll just say it in Korean because I can get it out faster that way. But when you already speak the language, it's not a big deal which one you're using. Like, you're not thinking, oh, I should speak in Korean for this because of this word. It's just, they both just come out. You don't really think too much about which one you're using. If I want it to be really clear, if I'm saying something, I want it to be really clearly understood by my wife, I would just only say it in Korean. But I'm not trying to specifically only try to say stuff in Korean just for the sake of saying everything in Korean. So if that helps. Michael asked the difference between 못해요 and 하지 못해요. 지 못해요, if you're using the verb 하다, so you're asking just about the expression 못해요 and 하지 못해요. 하지 못해요 is the verb 하다, just like 못해요 is 하다. It's the same thing, but 하지 못해요 is longer. So most of the time people will prefer the shorter one because it's easier to say. It sounds a little bit more spoken, like more colloquial. That's the main difference. Just, you don't need to use the longer version because it's the same meaning though. 지 못해요 is just cannot, that verb that it comes after. Versus 못해요 is cannot do, 하다. But that might not have been the question you were meaning to ask. Kai, is it 4? I gotta stop streaming. I didn't think I was gonna go for 2 hours today. My tablet actually dies after like 2.5 hours. I know that because it doesn't have a great battery. Thank you, Kai. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Gotta thank Kai for that wonderful green donation. Change it green here for a bit. So any other questions before I end the stream for today? This wasn't one of my classes. This was just kind of an impromptu, feel good type of class where we can just kind of practice sentences, but it wasn't the regular class. We're going to do that next Sunday. I don't know what the lesson's going to be, so you got to vote for that tomorrow. Let's see. Any other quick questions? Usually I try to do as many live streams as possible, but sometimes I legitimately just need the day off. Like, I'm editing videos. Oh, I have some really fun videos. I am so excited to upload. I can't wait to upload, but you're gonna have to wait. Let's see what's coming up this week. You're gonna see the video I upload about viewer Korean. So I had back in like May or June, I can't remember. I asked several of you, some of you did. I think I got like 6 or 7 videos to send me videos of you speaking Korean, and I filmed a video back then. I think it was maybe beginning of June or something like that. That video is going to be going live this Friday, which is going to be fun, but that's not the one I'm really looking forward to. Next month there are going to be some really fun Yeah, starting next month and the month after that, there are going to be some really fun new videos that I filmed over in Korea that are like totally different from what I've done. I finished editing them, and they're fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to that, but I don't want to spoil it. I'll just say next month there are going to be some fun videos, so keep an eye open for that. Samjang versus gochujang. Oh, that's easy. Samjang. Although I know a lot of Koreans would pick gochujang. I feel like if you're eating okay, if I'm eating meat, any meat dish, I'll pick samjang because it's just like an easier like dip that you can put with pretty much anything. Like any meat is what I mean. You can just load it up with lots of samjang. It's not going to be like too gross or too spicy or too salty or anything. You can just eat a spoonful of that stuff and it's still good. If you're talking about like, I have to pick one that I have to use only one for the rest of my life, I'd have to pick gochujang because they use gochujang for cooking. They do not use samjang for cooking. Gochujang also is used in recipes that are not meat. So it's used in soups. It's used for dips, for making sauces. It's used for like the fried chicken sauce, like the spicy yangnyeom chicken. Some people put it in, you can put it in the like salads as part of the salad dressing recipe. So I'd have to pick gochujang for its versatility. But if you're asking which do I pick if I'm going to dip like meat or something in it directly, or like make it into like a, you know, with lettuce, like a sam, I'd have to pick samjang for that because it's more, you don't have to worry about overdoing it. MG asks, do you have a grammar book I could purchase? Yeah, I do. I have a series, Korean Made Simple. There are also workbooks if you want more of what's already in here, but like, you don't need the workbooks because these already have like 2 pages of practice. Let's see, this one has 2, yeah, like 2 pages, sometimes 3 of practice examples. So you don't need to get the workbooks, but if you want more practice, like it's in the book, I do have workbooks for all 3 of those books. If that is below your level, if you're someone who's already like speaking Korean, I do have a different book. I have a Korean Reading Made Simple book series as well. The first one is for beginners. If you just want something that you can try to read like real Korean, the first book's good for that. This one's if you want to try reading like more advanced Korean. This is like more native level, almost native level. Like folk tales. This is 10 of my favorite folk tales in Korean. There's the translation, all the words for it and everything. And then a different one, if you want to go straight into not reading books, but you want to go straight into conversations, I also have this one. There is a video series as well on my channel. If you don't know if you want to get this one, you're like, what's in it? Check out the video series on my channel. Has the first 20 of 25 of these conversations are all there for free in video form. The book just has an extra 5 that the video series doesn't. But I mean, if you can just use the video series too, it's still 20. But yeah, that's like, it has 100% natural native conversations. So like 0 filtering, exactly what you would hear native speakers talk about, with full explanations for literally everything. So it demystifies everything in a regular Korean sentence and does that for 20 full conversations. And the conversations are fairly long. You'll see on the presentations in the video series that they're like each 3 pages long for the conversations. So yeah, they're fairly long conversations and you'll learn a ton of like real Korean in there. And that's what I've got for now. But yeah, you can also get free stuff on my channel, so you don't have to buy my books if you're just looking for something simple. I have video courses. I have a full beginner Korean course. If you just want to learn with video, again, completely free. Any other questions? Oh, 다음 주에 봬요. Yes, 다음 주에 봬요. You can also say like, oh yeah, let's do this. Let's do this and then I'm gonna go. Let's do this as our last sentence for today. 그럼 다음에 또 봐. How do we make this polite? Because pa, like I said, is casual. So you would never actually say this to anyone. I do because it's just like, I'm acting as if I'm like your best friend in that the early videos, it's just me being a goofball, being some like, I don't know, psychopath or whatever I was trying to be for the first episodes. But yeah. Consider of these broke learn. Yeah, I think that that's what drives me to make my free content is I think of the random teenager that sends me a message in broken English probably from like India or Philippines or some other country, like Mr. Sir Billy, where do I learn the Korean? Like that, like I can tell English is not their native language. And I don't want to say like, here's my, $20 book on Amazon, which doesn't even exist in your country. So I'm like, that's why I made this series. I'm like, here, watch this. You get everything you need to get started. Later you can decide if you want to buy my books, if you get, once you start working or anything. But for right now, I just wanted to have a way for people to at least get started learning Korean and learn a lot without having to put down a lot of money. So let's see what we got. Keith, you got a great one. You could also do the other one. 그럼 다음에 또 봐요. Yeah, you can do that. Did you ever lose motivation while studying? Yeah, I lost motivation for learning Korean when I didn't have a need for it. The first time after I had returned from my long trip over in Korea, I made some Korean friends again right away, but I wasn't feeling like I really needed to know Korean for my life because I was like, well, okay, I learned Korean, I got decently good at it, but now what? I'm not working at a company where I'm speaking much Korean. I was working at Baskin Robbins initially, and I didn't use Korean that much there, and then got another job at an electronics store. Wasn't using Korean very much there either. So there was a time when I was like, I think I'm done, like mostly with Korean. Maybe someday I'll learn more, but for right now I'm good. And I was just not motivated to keep learning because it's the same way that you get motivation in the first place. It's like, why am I learning this? What can I do with the language? And at that point, even though I already spoke it, I was feeling demotivated because I was like, what do I do with it? So it's like, it's not an exclusive issue to people who are beginner. It's anyone can feel demotivated if you're like, why am I learning this language? So it's good to keep in mind why, like, what are you learning the language for? And the more you can use it, the more you get to use what you're learning, the more fun it is. And the more that helps you stay motivated. So yeah, find Korean shows you like, find people that you can talk with that are from Korea. Make plans to travel to Korea if you can, like just anything to kind of help you looking forward. And of course, yeah, eventually when I was starting the YouTube channel, it kind of helped me get motivated as well. Cause I realized, oh, there are people who actually want to learn this. I better polish up my Korean that I haven't been using for a while. Yeah. Ice cream. Do you ever feel like learning other languages? I used to study more languages, and then I settled on just being happy with Korean. Okay, so the first thing we can do is change pa to payo. There's another thing we can also do. 그럼 is actually a shortened version of 그러면, which means like, well then. 그러면, 그러면 다음에 또 봐요, which is, oh well then, I will see you again next time. But we can also do better because 보다, remember, we learned the verb 뵈다, which we can make 봬요. 그럼 다음에 또 봬요. 그럼 다음에 또 봬요. This is a very polite way. 그러면 다음에 또 봬요. Well then, I shall see you again next time. My friends, take care. Yeah, that's a very polite way of saying 그럼 다음에 또 봐. 그러면 다음에 또 봬요. But it feels awkward to me because I want to have that friendly relationship. Like I want kind of to get that, where people will like trust what I say for Korean and like, oh, it's fun to learn Korean with Billy. So I would never say this, but you can say it if you want to your friends. Obviously don't say 그럼 다음에 또 봐 to your friends. When I meet other Korean teachers and I'm saying bye to them, I also wouldn't say 그럼 다음에 또 봐. I'll say 그럼 다음에 또 봐요, like that at least. So that way it's polite. Because yeah, just 그럼 다음에 또 봐 is a little bit impolite if you're using it seriously to someone. Okay. That's good for today. I appreciate everyone sticking around. That was fun. Got to do some sentences. It was a different type of lesson I've ever done here. Take care, everyone, and I will see you again on Sunday when we'll have our actual lesson. 그러면 No, just kidding. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.